till Monday, and then it's going to get sent out to other people, so I can send it out to the board and some other people at the same time for comments. Yeah, it's going to take multiple warrant articles, and we have to be very careful how we get them in order. Town council has not seen a draft yet, but we have to revise the medical marijuana that has to be excuse me, revised to correspond with the correct terminology from the Cannabis Control Commission, where our present bylaw doesn't. We're doing recreational. We have to repeal the general bylaw. We have to repeal the moratorium in the zoning bylaw, and there has to be probably a financial article put on as well for the funds. So, the planning board will be presenting it. So I'm going to assume that Patty will probably take the lead, and we have our consultant who is working pro bono, who will probably help us along. He did say, I mean, he would come to town. Yeah, so while we're talking about town meeting articles, so we'll be sponsoring that. We'll be sponsoring a lot shape, which I sent to everybody, which I really would like a comment on, since it was discussed once here in this meeting, and I think we have fixed your previous concerns. I found another place where we have to add a minor correction to section 440.5 by adding VCN in there. The ZBA is going to be the sponsor of 810, 830, and based on a meeting we had this week with building department and zoning, we think that it's appropriate to change the setback in the R3 zoning district from 8 to 15 feet for the side setback. Now, it's kind of a simple change, but does the board want to put that forth for this town meeting or wait for another town meeting? It could be controversial.
But I think it should be consistent with
the other two districts are 15 feet.
And when you think about it, an R3 has 100 feet. And so if it's 15 feet and 15 feet, you're only taking up 30 feet, and you still have the ability to put in a 70-foot long structure, which I think is very good. So I don't have a problem with it. I think if we could just couch it that way, it's simple.
I have to write it, and I have to and get a warrant reserved, but I need to know basically tonight if that's what we want to do. If we want to try to go it for the spring town meeting, then I have to reserve a warrant article.
Bob, what do you think?
I'm with what's feasible for Karen on this, because you're the primary leader.
One of the motivating factors to do this, I mean, with our list of things that we wanted to do, we talked about lot coverage, FAR.
Yeah.
This might accomplish the same thing in some of the in the R3 zone.
Okay.
And the chair of the ZBA thought this was a better way to do it.
Sounds good.
And I agree as well. Based on, sorry, I think this is a good question. But I think it's important.
Yeah. I thought the plan that you sent out looks good. I just wasn't sure when you were talking about the amount of work and stuff like that. Wasn't sure.
Well, it's just that the warrant closes before we meet again, so that's why if we think we want to attempt to warrant, put a placeholder in for the warrant article.
That's whether I support it or not, I have to think about that more, but in terms of putting it on, I also defer to Karen's workload, but I think maybe we should be mindful. It could be a pretty big town meeting zoning wise, depending on how we think some of these debates might go on the floor, so that's something to consider.
Yes.
Like, even though this is a little one, it could be very contentious one.
But let's put the stakeholder. We can always,
We can pull it.
we can always pull it. Better to have it in than not. Right.
But just please be cognizant that, like, the discussion on marijuana will all just be one big discussion, where they will move to do, you know, it all is one big discussion,
Right.
and then vote all the things in the right order individually, but it will be one big discussion. All right,
It's now 6:30 and we have a continued public hearing, stormwater and site plan review, a common driveway at 533 Country Way. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the record, my name is Paul Marabito from Ross Engineering Company. I'm here with Stephen Bajorklin. The two of us are representing the owner and applicant for the proposed project, Paul Sheeran. Since the last meeting, we did receive some review comments from your peer review engineer, John Chessier, last Thursday. We have reviewed them, and we're in the process of responding to the comments, but prior to completing our review, we would like to have a discussion with the board on some of the comments to see if we can simplify some of them and to get better clarity as to how we can proceed in an expeditious way to respond to this latest review of comments. So Steve and I did go over these comments in the last few days, and with permission of the board, we'd like to start a discussion on some of the comments in the report.
Don't worry.
One of the comments was, this project is for a common driveway. It's also for stormwater. There's some comments asking for information on the septic systems and the test pits. We believe that's not required because it isn't part of the regulations for a common driveway. The septic system plans have been submitted to the Board of Health. They've had them for several months now. They should be approved. There's a 45-day period in which they have to approve them. We have not received any comments back from them explaining as to whether or not we did not comply with any Title V or a Board of Health regulations. So on that basis, we assume that they have been approved. The other thing is, on the opposite side of the street on on the other side of the street from the project, on private property, there was a septic system that was approved by the Board of Health and Conservation Commission. As part of that, there was a wetland line, and one of the wetland flags came right up to the street in this area here. It's the point from here, the wetland went down this way, but this wetland flag put a portion of the front part of the property in the work of the street within the 100-foot buffer zone. Last August, we filed for a notice of intent with Conservation Commission. They have yet to advertise for the public hearing. So any issues relative to the stormwater, as you know, would be addressed by the planning board and not conservation commission. What our concern was that whether or not we should show all of the wetland on the plan that is associated with a single-family home. The septic system was in this area here. The reason there's a wetland here is there's a drain easement for the town that comes from this catch basin all the way down to a wetland in this area here. Everything in the street and everything from this hillside drains in these basins and sends the water down to the catch basin. That's why the wetlands came up high in this area here. But anything relative to the Conservation Commission and the Wetlands Protection Act, we don't believe we should have to comply with that on a common driveway plan, because that's not in the regulations, and that comes under a separate permit from the planning board.
But you are showing the wetlands, correct?
No, if I can, I'm gonna chime in when I can. Paul's gonna try and do it. If I've got a comment, I'd like to try to address it as well at the same time. So on that sheet right there, it shows one wetland flag, which is the closest flag to the project. On sheet 1 of 7 in the stormwater plans, it actually shows a more extensive wetland line on that page. So I'm sure probably now John's aware that that is more extensive there. But we can't access the lot that's across the street other than using their plan that shows the wetlands. And this is clearly a buffer zone.
I think in this case that is reasonable, that they take the wetland line from that septic plan. But show enough of it so that the board can see.
Yeah, and I think it's on sheet 1 of 7 on the stormwater plans.
You know, it should be on the common driveway plan too.
Again, if we put everything on every plan, nobody will ever read it, so we try to separate it up so that the information is in your package. And John will attest to the fact that there's text on top of text on top of text, because there's just not enough room to have everything on a single sheet. So this is probably the most extensive stormwater permit plan that you've seen.
No, I don't think so.
No, it's not.
There. Come on, let's move on.
Also, sheet 1, just for, Paul skipped by it, we did add a septic easement for the repair and maintenance of the second leaching field. That is added on the plan. So on the second paragraph, there was some reference to easements on the plan. So we did add that, and I think John's probably already looked at that as well.
So all the grading is shown for the septic system, so that's the important thing. But well, when we get to John, we'll let John comment, but the grading is shown, and that's what is important, because that impacts the stormwater permit.
Yes, it does. All right. Next.
And one of the other comments was on the Locus Map to show the common driveway. The reason we didn't do that is the purpose of the Locus Map is to show where the site is in relationship to the surrounding streets. This scale is 1 inch equals 1,000 feet. The driveway is 16 feet wide. It's impossible to show that on that little black spot. I couldn't find in the regulations where we're required to show a common driveway in the Locus Map. We've done several common driveways in Scituate, and we've never had to show that. So this is the Locus Map that we're gonna leave in place for the project. It does show several streets around it. I think the members of the board have probably driven by this many times. But again, the purpose of the Locus Map is to show where the site is in relationship to the surrounding streets, which this plan clearly shows. Do you want to add anything?
No? Nope, that's perfect. Stick it on page 2. On page 2, Paul? On page 2?
Page 4. Go ahead, what you had something.
Okay. The first paragraph on page 2 talks about resource conservation services, soils classifications and things like that. We did show test pits. I think this site's got 17 different test pits on it. And I know John has asked for some information regarding the test pits that were for the septic system, the perk test pits that were there. We certainly believe that the stormwater pits that we have and the locations of all of the underground infiltration systems and things like that. We went back and dug a series of holes and staked out to each one of those items so that the test pits are in the exact locations of everything that's being used for stormwater. So we don't see why we would have to take the test pits for the septic system and do anything with those. It's more information on the map that really doesn't have anything to do with planning board.
Karen?
I mean, I think maybe we should kind of rechange the, I think John should be able to speak so we can address the points as we go. I think that would make the most sense so that, we can,
No, I have no problem with
cross
that.
items off the list.
Yep. Yeah, and we're just trying to pick away at certain items that are on here to limit it when we come back. That's really it. So it's, I mean, if,
So, okay, so test pits. The benefit of having the septic test pits is it confirms the soil type used in the runoff analysis. So you did tests, you have information that's useful for the stormwater analysis, yet you don't share it with me when it seems a very simple thing. You don't have to put it on the plan, you could put it in a piece of paper in the report. It's not that big of a deal. The document's there, they've already done test pits. And it's useful for the information for the board as well as my review.
That sounds reasonable to me.
I think they requested Board of Health plans, and I think we gave them to them. So I think the test pits are all there. They're just not on this particular plan.
They don't need to be.
Right.
Or what?
So I think they already have the Board of Health plans. So,
I don't know, I don't know that I had them. I mean, that was sort of general background information, that comment that you were reading there. But that's why they would be useful. And septic systems obviously have to be shown on the stormwater plans because of the separation from features. So you have to show, and you have to show abutting septic systems as well in case they're within certain proximity to stormwater features.
Can you just send me another copy, please, electronically of the septic system plans, and I will send them to Mr. Chesia.
sure. Send. Septic. Okay. Do you want to go back further, John, or did you agree with what the first page comments that we had? We added the septic easement plan.
That was probably that.
That one's okay.
The question
And-
on the locus was not so much on the locus itself, was if the board wanted to see the whole lot for the common drive plan. And that's up to the board, not really, I can understand it, I see it on the others, but does the board want it? Does it make it easier for you to review a project if you have the whole site?
Well, we have the plan on the site.
Yeah, so if that's good, that's fine. Okay.
And the other issue we went through was the wetlands.
I'm fine with
Sheet
it.
1 is 7, okay, so
I'm
page
fine.
1 is fine. If you want, all right, on page 2, the first paragraph, we're gonna give you the septic plans, which is okay. Next paragraph refers to 14-foot wide common drive. John, that's been adjusted to 16 feet after review with the deputy fire chief. So I think that one hopefully will be okay.
That's in a lot of locations in my letter.
Yeah, Deputy Fire Chief still would like 16 feet?
Yeah.
The next one again refers to the flags, wetland flags on the plan, and the wetland buffer zones being shown. So I think we've hopefully addressed that, if John agrees. And if the board agrees that we can use that wetland line, that's good, okay. Third page, first paragraph, we don't see anything there, I think that's fine. The rest of that page, I think John agrees with the stuff that's in there, except under supporting data. He wants to see 2 items under supporting data, so we will provide those.
I don't necessarily need that, it's not changed, I don't need another copy. This common driveway application was provided, I just said it wasn't resubmitted as part of this. It's not like it means you need it, it means that if you're not filing a new application,
Oh,
so then you don't need it. Just because it says not resubmitted doesn't mean you need it, it just means that, so when someone looks at this, there's a different date on those things, and that's why. It just sort of keeps track.
So are we happy with the original submittal being the dates that we used to start the process? Okay, so we don't need to provide that. Okay, we're on to page 4.
If anybody on the board wants to.
Oh, yeah, anyone chime in, hopefully it's a discussion. I mean, if somebody has a comment, I'd rather hear it now rather than later, if somebody has an issue with any of this stuff. Okay, common driveway plan was provided, sheet 1 of 2, the plan indicates easement lines on there. Again, that refers to a 14-foot pavement. It's been modified to a 16-foot pavement. And there is a plan in there that does show all the dimensions of the easement, although John is correct, we need to tie the easement into the property line from a couple of the corners so that it can be exactly located from the property corners. So he got that. But the easement itself is all dimensioned all the way around. Yeah, Paul went through the locus. I'm not worried about the locus. Okay, down below it says, there's a note on the plan stating that the deed for the driveway include a covenant that the common driveway shall never be considered. And that's actually on the plan. And the deeds out will say that it's subject to the common driveway agreement, which the common driveway agreement says in it, and the plans that it can't be accepted as a town way. So I think that we're okay with that. Under that, he's got a comment that regarding the sidewalk grading, which is not on site. It's actually going to be something that we will be doing with the DPW, and he does mention DPW may require crosswalk. I tried to talk to Sean today, but it was too busy a day. But we'll deal with DPW because we will be doing a town sidewalk in front of it. And if you've seen the site, you know the sidewalk's about this wide. So as we move the wall back, yeah, with a telephone pole in the middle of it. So we'll move that back and we'll work with DPW on that plan for the work that's in the roadway layout. Hopefully that's
I think it needs to be on this plan because there's retaining walls right at the right-of-way line, so you need it all to come together. So you should get through that and then come in with that instead of waiting, in my opinion. But that's up to the board to decide.
I think we need to show that. Where we're moving it to.
I mean, it shows where it's moving to.
It does
shows where
show,
it
it
is.
does
It's just
show,
the grading.
the wall shows on the plan.
Right, it's just the grading, how it's going to be graded to the wall, that's all. And it's going to be done under the direction of DPW, is my only point, so. DPW is going to get what DPW wants.
They always do.
But it should be shown on this plan too.
Common driveway agreement to be, for the maintenance is acceptable to the board. And at this point, we pretty much have a common driveway agreement that we've used a number of times. It's going to be the same thing, and it will have the operation and maintenance plan as part of the common driveway agreement between the owners. So I think that that's okay.
I haven't sent it out to town council for review.
But it is the same, it's basically the same thing that we've used on a number of them. And then we get into design standards and talk about the tree removal and stuff in the roadway. I'm not sure whether John was aware or not. We already do have a scenic roadway approval from the board, and DPW went through that as well as far as the tree removal that's going to be required to build the sidewalk and do the regrading. So that's most of what is in there. The common driveway obviously is being moved to the center of the lot because that's what makes sense from a design standpoint.
On A, the question on A isn't the street tree that is coming down, it's the, I believe the zoning or the design standards under this section. It's the site, what trees are being cut, what trees are being saved in general, because this common drives are supposed to minimize site disturbance. So this is a board question. You look at it, and are you happy with that design relative to those things in the bylaw that says, here's what you're trying to do? And that's not something I'm going to give you an opinion on. I'm just saying this is a highlight for you to look at the plan, look at the regulation, and compare and tell you what you think, and then you give the feedback to them.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's really what we're looking for tonight, is some of these items so that we can cross them off. I think most of the tree removal was within the layout. A lot of it was in the layout or because of stormwater issues. So if the board is okay with that,
I brought this up at the last, question, how much clearing, grading, and everything. I think Mr. Tansey was here for the
Yes,
presentation.
yes.
He said that in order to accomplish the grading, that the site would be clear. I mean, for me, from a design perspective, I don't think it's terrible. But if that's what they're presenting, that's what needs to be done, then that's a matter of aesthetics and opinion. Do I think that that's, the ideal use of the bylaw? No, but it's subjective, and I guess we have to decide whether the plan meets that, right? For me, no, I don't think it's great, and I'm not convinced that the common driveway is superior to some other sort of potential land use, potential use or development of the site, but, I brought that up in the last meeting, and I was told that the grading, that clearing and the design is dependent on the grading and the way it's designed, so there's nothing you really push back on that at this point. This is what it is, I guess.
Can I make a statement, Mr.
Yes.
Gilpin? You'll always see, I consider you to be tree friendly.
They are going to replant and stuff like that, so there is going to be replanting.
With your assurance, and picky spending, we're going to replant trees that are appropriate there and that will flourish the trees.
And we need a landscape plan.
That's right.
We did request a landscape plan, and that has not been provided. Because we put a number of trees in the scenic road approval that were to be, either put on site or off site, so we definitely want a landscape plan.
And Paul's going to try and fit them on site if he can, and that'll be under the planning board's direction when he, does that.
Put that on the people so people know.
That being said, I will just make one comment that, because obviously I care a lot about the site, how sites read the site development, but I won't always say that, a wholesale clearing of land is a bad thing. It can be made better, particularly in certain instances. I know this site up front had, there's a lot of Norway maples, there's a lot of, I've never done a site visit here, but just the way that the property was kept, I'm assuming there's a lot of invasive species and things like that, so a thoughtful landscape plan, it's not going to look, the next 5-10 years, people are still going to have it hot as they drive by, but 20 years out, 30, 40 years out, depending on how it's maintained, it could actually be a lot better than what's there now, so there's something to think about.
There's a little comment that says the trees in the dotted area, so those around the side, are going to be saved if possible.
Yeah, he doesn't want to take any more trees down when he has to. It's just a cost. And this is not going to be an inexpensive project, so Paul has indicated what he can save around the perimeter he's saving, and there's a limit of work on there as well, I think. Next comment, again, was down about the 14-foot driveway. That's been now 16 feet. But again, the fire department has basically signed off on the common drive portion of this. So I think that's okay.
They want 16 feet.
And
Yes,
against
and they got it.
That-
They got it.
that's-
We already modified that plan. And it is the deputy chief, not the fire chief, but deputy chief does that.
You say, wait a minute, you say it's already modified on these plans?
I think we went to 16 feet on the second set of plans that came in, right?
I believe so.
I don't think so.
What else?
When I looked at them, I saw it still as 14 feet on the
I
cross-section.
didn't change it, as we've agreed that it's 16 feet. We agreed at the last meeting it would be 16 feet. So if the engineer missed it, we'll
Okay.
make sure that it's 16
Okay.
feet, so we don't spend a lot of time, but we
No,
agreed to
no,
that at the
it's-
last meeting,
Yes.
so. Okay, next paragraph refers to all the utilities. We did locate put the water services on there within the common driveway easement area, and we're not sure if he's going to end up going with gas or oil as far as the heating systems are concerned. The plan shows that there was an existing gas service into one of the homes, but as happens on every subdivision in town and every property in town, The electric company will put the electric where the electric goes. They come in after and they figure out where they're gonna put it after the project's approved. And gas as well, it's gotta go where the gas company says if they're gonna put gas in. They'll determine where that cut is gonna be, it's not really up to the developer.
But they're gonna be underground. Electric's gonna be underground.
I think the electric is overhead, right? I think the line's on our side of the road. I think the electric,
It
the
is.
pole's on our side of the road.
Yeah, there's a pole in front of the.
So, and again, that's something for the planning board, I guess. It's a short distance to go from the overhead line to the house. If we go underground, it's a complete disaster, actually. It adds a tremendous expense to go underground for a short distance to get to the house. So I guess I looked at the planning board to
We'll take that.
maybe chime in and say, at the next meeting, you know, let us know whether we can stay overhead with that or not. Okay, and John, you had a comment in here regarding the swale, the drainage swale on each side of the 14-foot section of the common driveway with a shorter section on the north side of the hammerhead. And that's something that we'll take up with the drainage portion of it, I guess.
So the italic text is what the current comment is on the current plan, whereas
Yep.
the other one was the prior comment. So that just says that originally there were swales the whole way, and now it says swales are only on the lower half.
Yep.
So that's all that means.
Okay. So again, so that just boils down to utilities on there. 6, again, page 6, top first paragraph in there, the fire chief has already gone through that. So if everybody agrees, I think we're all set there. And John's comment was just he wanted to know if the fire chief had commented on the plans and the grades. And we went over the fact that it was just over 10%. It was like 10.75% or something at one point, and the deputy fire chief didn't have a problem with that. His comment was that's still 10%. Length of the driveways is okay. Septic system components, okay, septic systems not indicated on the common driveway plans but are included on stormwater permit plans. The only component in the common driveway easement is a force main, and that's fine. We can have that in the common driveway. In the bylaw, we can't have a major component of a septic system under the paved portion of the driveway, and there are none. So hopefully that is okay. Proposed hammerhead, again, it's about the fire chief, and that's approved. So that paragraph, I think we're all set. John was just asking if you received comments from the fire chief. Okay, site
I
dis-
sent him them just for reaffirmation, so.
Okay, yep.
I think you skipped one, and that's maybe not a big
You
deal.
can skip
Oh, the Form A?
No,
2 A&R lots.
Yeah, the Form A, it says the common driveway center between the two Form A lots is not adjacent to the exterior line. Determine if screening is required. I would assume that the board would hopefully agree that because we control both of the properties, we're not up against somebody else's property, that Paul's gonna put in what he wants to when he builds these houses. So if he adds trees on the driveway, it's for his two customers. It's not going up against a house that is already in existence where there's a driveway that's gonna interfere.
This is part of the landscape plan.
Yeah, but again, it's centered between the two. It's not on the edge of the property that is somebody else as in a butter, that's all. So yeah, part of the landscape plan, he could show some additional landscaping in there. Site distance data is indicated on Plan 2. It goes in, the measurement point used is 14.5 feet back from Country Way. When you do a subdivision road, in the ASHTO regulations, it requires you to be 15 feet back instead of 14.5. ASHTO does not have any regulations that refer to common driveways. So we're doing the best that we can to try to meet that, even though this is only a driveway. And just so that the board understands, we have been to traffic rules and regulations, and we do have a street opening permit for the work.
So my comment is Country Way is a major road, and you need to do the 85th percentile speed distance based on it being a major road.
Yep.
And that wasn't done in this case, so that's something that the board can either require or not require.
And again, that's if we're designing a subdivision road, the ASHTO requirements This is a driveway. If you've been out there, we got pretty good sight distance in both directions out there. I don't think this is one where there's a corner or anything like that that's in the way. You can see quite a distance down the road both ways. So, and again, that's up to the board.
I mean, if this has already been reviewed by the traffic rules,
And when did you go?
I don't have any comments from traffic
No,
rules.
You may have your street open, but I have to tell you, Stephen, I'm on the Traffic Rules and Regulations Committee. And you know what? I've been to every meeting.
And
Yes.
talk to Sean and Mr. Billings, because this was approved while I was in Florida. And then they gave us the street opening permit, so you missed a meeting. Okay, well, we'll talk about that at the next meeting, but you'll owe me one. They had a meeting. Sean actually handled the meeting for me because I was away in Florida, and then they gave us the street opening permit. We'll deal with that later, but we do have the approval, and they did have a meeting. Okay, the plan doesn't indicate lot width. It is acceptable for the lot width to be measured parallel to the common driveway, which is what we're doing. So these lots have 100 feet of width to the street, because you have to have from the street to the first part of the dwelling 100 feet. And we have that in there on the Form A. It shows that it's 100 feet wide. They're obviously more than 125 feet deep through the houses.
We'll also have to do a separate plan for the building department, plot plan, showing that the lot and the structure.
Can we go back to the street opening? You don't have a street opening permit yet. Do you have a curb cut permit?
Let me try this one more time. We have the okay from DPW. They gave us the permit.
Where's the permit? You don't have-
I don't have it in my hand right now, but I will get you the permit before the next meeting. We have the permit.
A curb cut permit, probably.
We have a permit to take the wall out of there and do the sidewalk, okay? Although it's under the direction of DPW, and if you want additional plans, we will provide that to you. But DPW has signed off on this, and Paul had to sign an agreement with them that this work would get
There is an
done.
agreement signed. There is an agreement signed.
All right.
That's a minor issue, so I don't want to keep going over that, but,
None of this is mine.
You know, Mr. Bill, we don't think it's a common driveway, but to the talking person, it looks like a street.
well, this one's, again, we thought it was going to be 14 feet wide, it's 16 feet wide, but I mean, there's a common driveway on each side of this as well. One's 14, one's 12, but we're going to meet the 16 on the driveway. Okay, John gets into the zoning table, and it basically is saying, should the board determine, the board should determine if any additional data is required. And we've got some of the listed setbacks for the dwellings on there. And again, when you go through site plan review, I think that at least Ann, I know, she's been here long enough, and probably Karen as well, will realize that a lot of the stuff that's in the site plan review is really more for commercial sites than it is a common driveway, but it got tied into common driveway, meeting these requirements, such as like exterior lighting on houses in a residential district. You know, do we have to show every light that's going to be on the outside of a house and different things? But this is where John comes in and says the board should determine if you want more information than what's shown on the plan in these instances here where he's got the bullets. And that's why we're here, is to figure out, do you want us to try to show where there's going to be outside lights on the houses?
Yes, it's important. If it has some down lighting, LED maybe, or are you putting any street lights on this common driveway?
It's only 100 feet long, or 100 feet long.
It's a driveway,
Yeah?
and there should be probably some type of delineation at the foot of it, a lantern or something to show if somebody's coming down the road to go to that parcel, they can find it. I'm still looking for the library.
Okay. Well, do you have one at your house?
Yes, I do.
I'll look, and we'll do the same type of lighting that you have at your
I
house.
don't care about that. Just something.
Just down lighting.
Show a light.
We want it noted as down lighting, so it doesn't shine into abutting properties.
Show a light, Okay.
Another issue, Steve, is that, so we come upon a street and goes in there.
Right.
So if you know, if you're driving down Country Way, it's hard to find the library because there's no, like, street right at the end of the driveway.
They put up,
Yeah.
they put up a reflective tape on the stop sign, okay? So that we can see it, but they put it on the going out rather than
Coming
going in.
So it's kind of hard to
So
find.
you can't tell.
All right, so let's go back. Are you happy with the zoning information on the plan? Let's get an answer on that. It seems to me that it's sufficient.
All right. Do you feel that it is sufficient?
I mean, it's right up on the top, on the right side there. It tells you what the stuff is. I feel it's sufficient.
Okay.
I think you have bigger issues to fry.
You're right, I do.
Okay, the plans submitted for the common driveway don't contain all the data required. I did receive a copy of the A&R. The applicant should include the A&R with this set if the board requires the data. Do you want to know about our Form A? You already have it.
Where are you on this?
Is there enough information to tie property lines and stuff in? Is there enough information? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, I did want the A&R to look at it because it had more information. My question to the board was, you got an A&R here, I don't know how you file this stuff. Is it all in the same file? Is it all the same, like is the A&R in the same file as the common drive, as the stormwater permit, or how do you keep it? It's just handy to have the information all in one place. So I don't know how you file it, but if you don't file it in that fashion, then you might want it with this application, just to keep track of it, even though it's an extra copy. But that's really more of an internal thing, and that's why. And or if it helped the board looking at it, to have the A&R in hand as you're reviewing the project, that's something that I just suggested you may or may not want.
This is a kind of convoluted project, you guys have all the information at one time, so we're going to go through drawers and do this stuff.
Just so the
Copy.
board knows, prior to getting the building permit, we have to do a separate plan, and what we use is the A&R plan information. The purpose of the A&R plan is for zoning, only because that's what creates the two buildable lots. We have to show the house, the setbacks, the lot width parallel to the street being 100 feet, and the lot width 125 feet parallel with a common driveway. Once we do that, the zoning enforcement officer can issue the permit knowing that the lot and the location of the house conform to the requirements of the zoning bylaw. The common driveway permit is separate from the A&R. That simply informs the building department that from a zoning point of view, the lot width can be measured parallel with common driveway as opposed to parallel with country way. So for that reason, we don't show all the information on an A&R plan, on a common driveway plan. They're two separate items. In order to get a building permit, I think there's 7 or 8 separate permits Mr. Sharon has to get before you get a building permit. One is the A&R plan, the other is the common driveway, stormwater, the wetlands, the street opening permit, scenic road. So the information on the A&R plan isn't shown on the common driveway plan, it'll be shown on the plot plan.
I'll send John a copy of the the A&R plan. You have the electronic copy. Perhaps you could just give me one extra copy of the A&R plan that I could put paper in the folder with the common driveway stormwater. That's all together in the scenic road.
I would be glad to. Let's keep going.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not a problem. Next paragraph talks about getting the full extent of all of the elevations and contours of properties that are within 50 feet of this site. And again, I don't know, my opinion is some of that has to do with if it's a commercial issue. We're really going for a common driveway that's in the center of the property. So as far as the common driveway is concerned, again, this is one of those ones that kind of ties over to saying you meet the requirements of 770. There's nothing proposed out back except for trees around the edge of it and putting 2 leaching fields into it. You know, hopefully we've got enough on, the board would think that we have enough on the plan to show that we're controlling our water.
So that's a regulation. It's in some area, I think on the street side, they have enough. On the side, I don't know which way to know what this is off the top of my head, but looking at the sheet, I think to
I think
the
it's
top,
Yeah.
there's like a swale, I think, or no, the bottom, there's a swale on that property, abutting on the one side. But what should be indicated on the plan is any other, is where the septic systems are in the abutting lots.
There,
You need to know where you need to show where they are, so we know we have enough distance from them. If they're far away, then you still ought to show it, so you prove it's far away, so we know it. They should be shown. I mean, one side's a swale, so the purpose of the 50 feet around is, does water flow into the site? Is there some structure or feature right close by that somebody would care about? So the board may care, like, where are the houses next to this? Is there any buildings, driveways right next to it? So the 50 feet shows where things are that people may care about. I mean, as far as analyzing what's what, I think I have enough information other than the septic systems, but especially in places where you have interested abutters that are living nearby and they want their house shown, and if it's within 50 feet, then probably you should show it. But that's up to, you guys to determine what you want to do with that.
Are there houses in
there's one house that's probably within 50 feet on the bottom left-hand corner of the plan, but it's up in the back towards where the septic system's located. And that's the ones that Paul had built a number of years ago up there. But the septic systems are not within 50 feet. And that house is actually raised up considerably higher than where we are if you go up there and take a look.
I mean, I think in general, that's a good practice to demand a requirement, to show septic or, footprints of structures or whatever in that buffer, because it is important for me anyways when I look at plans to get it better, because I don't always get to do a site visit or a site walk, and it gives me, obviously I take your word for it, but it also gives me something graphic that I can look at and know the proximity, to any of the stormwater infrastructure and things that actually do have regulations tied to certain setbacks and things like that.
Okay, so if there is a leaching field within 50 feet, or if there's a building within 50 feet, you'd like us to locate that? Building?
And I think that should apply across the board to any plan I look at, There's sometimes it's left out.
Okay, so we can do that.
If there are no septic systems within 50 feet, then there should be a note on the plan that you've done the research to prove it, then there are none based on your research. So that it's something, it's not just hanging, did you or didn't you? Okay.
I appreciate your time going through this with us. It's not, oh, absolutely. We could be home watching great TV, couldn't we?
That's better than this.
Nothing. Where's the popcorn?
Okay, I think the next page, John got the survey indicated in the first paragraph.
Yeah, that's okay. H is
Yep,
okay. You answered the question.
Okay, and just quickly, I don't have H's or anything, I just have bullets on here.
I don't know why that happened, but that's actually the regulation section. The H is the section, that's how I read it.
Okay, well, what I have as bullets, so if you have a letter or something, I don't understand what that is.
You
but
take this.
This is all marked up with,
Important
we'd be
stuff.
looking at it forever, but not too much further, and we'll be set, I think. Okay, stormwater permit plans include existing conditions plan that identifies existing trees, type and size. Some of the text isn't legible. That's something that we will have cleaned up. And I agree with them that there are some spots in there where there's just so much text and your eyes glass over when you're studying the plan. So we'll go through those and have that clear. The revised stormwater permit plans indicate the proposed septic systems for both lots. Trees have been labeled. Plans don't identify specific trees to be retained. No landscaping data has been provided, and again, you want to see a landscape plan.
Yes, we want to see a landscape plan.
So, plan, okay.
The next one is a question, I think, for the board, is do you like to see the size of the building footprints on the plan?
Yes.
Okay, no, wait, but we'll clarify that. He used footprints to do the stormwater, so he used impervious areas, and we have footprints that are on the plan. Is the question, you want something that says this is the square footage of what shows on the plan?
Yeah.
So you just want to label the impervious footprint of each of the two houses.
Yeah, I think it would be really helpful.
It's in the stormwater report, and you have the footprints, so we'll
Yeah,
put-
but we're not going to hunt through the report to get all the data.
I get it, we can't show everything on one plan. There's
Right.
too much stuff to show. So we will show footprint. Okay. Next one, fire department signed off. That's interior traffic circulation. Again, if it was a commercial site under 770, you want to know how all the deliveries are going to get there and all that stuff. I think that doesn't really apply, but hopefully the board agrees that it's a common driveway and they're going to get into their garages. We already know there's no parking in the turnaround that's on the common driveway, which happens on every common driveway.
No parking along the common driveway either.
Right. That's usually the turnaround is the issue if somebody parks in the turnaround. Okay, it's unclear if the board will require data on exterior entrances and exits for single-family homes. Do you care where the front and back door is on the houses? I don't know where every door is on the house. I mean, again, we're looking for a common driveway here.
I think you just need to show a major door or two, whether it abuts, whether it's directed out towards Country Way or toward interior towards the
Yeah, they're
common
gonna be towards the
driveway.
They're going to be towards the driveway. That's their entrance into the house, is towards the driveway. I mean, do we have to label front doors on the houses? Okay, thank you. The next one talks about one of the patios, and it doesn't look like the engineer put a pipe going into the discharge system. Again, that's going to be a drainage thing. We'll have John and Greg go over that together and figure out. I don't want to say why it's not connected. I don't know if it's an oversight or if Greg purposely didn't connect that one in, but we'll let the two of them figure that one out. Yeah, pedestrian walkways, ramps, amenities to the site. John's asking if the board wants to see any of that. I'm hoping not at single-family home sites. If the board can agree. I mean, we don't have any ramps or anything like that out there. It's not no loading zones or anything like that. Again, it's a common driveway.
But just, I mean, the handicap ramps show them at the bottom of the driveway in the public right-of-way. That'll have to be, I mean, they'll have to be.
In the layout,
Right,
if we
in
have
the
to do
layout,
something
they'll
as
have to
far as
be
going through the
handicap.
sidewalk or something,
They'll have to
again,
be-
that's a DPW thing. If they require us to do that, we'll do that. I mean, there is some talk about whether there's going to be crosswalk labeled or anything like that going across this driveway. Again, they're going to tell us if they want to have that. And we're fine with whatever. They're going to get what they want, so we're fine with that. Plans don't include any data on signs. I mean, there's probably going to be house numbers. There has to be.
Absolutely, no question.
Yep, and the fire department won't give us occupancy if we don't have them up. They won't come and give us a final. So those obviously are going to be there. We don't usually put those numbers on a plan like this for a common driveway. It's not a commercial building, so it's not going to have, some type of commercial sign on the front facing towards the street or anything like that. And then you asked for the lighting, so we'll give you some down lighting in the area. Okay, and then John talks about the project exceeds the 15% impervious area, but does propose recharge and runoff from impervious areas. The board should just review that, and that's a 520.5 F1, which you actually talked about earlier. And that's really boils down to, in my opinion, are we doing enough with the stormwater here that's on this site to recharge as much as we possibly can, even though we do exceed the 15% by a little? I'm hoping we have enough recharge on the site to take care of that. And it is less water leaving the site when this is done than what leaves the site prior to.
There also needs to be a certification that the water quality is not impaired. I want to see that actual stamped certification.
Greg has already agreed to do that.
Okay.
And I'm actually surprised that's not in, because I thought he already did that.
I don't remember seeing it, but, you know,
Yeah, we're aware of that.
You'd have to do it on the revision anyway.
I think he actually did a separate letter.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I think so. But I'll check with that, with
But
Greg.
it would have to reflect the revision.
Yep, yep. Yeah, because that came out of our last meeting.
I just asked a quick question, I just wasn't sure. You guys are like opting to go on septic for this project?
As far as the 2 septic systems are concerned, one of them was actually approved as a rebuild for the house that was existing on the site. The other one, I think that the Board of Health has all the stuff that they need to approve it, but they were waiting to get the project approved and the lots divided and all that, because when the first one was approved, it was a single lot, and it's been divided into 2 since then, so they were actually told to hold off until some of these approvals were done. But I believe they have all the information that they need, and it's just a matter of having them issue it.
Just, is there, like, why did you guys choose septic over, like, is there no sewer?
There's no
there's
sewer.
no sewer.
Okay, all right.
And
Believe
what
me,
if-
if you can get me a sewer pipe, we'll tie in.
And the rebuild, I mean, the repair, it has to be a new build because it's new construction. So I believe that that's what they did. That was a comment I got from Joan. The repair one had to be brought up to the standards for new
Oh, she wanted to see it on its
construction.
own individual lot.
Okay,
So it's not new construction, it's a rebuild, but the lot changed, so she wanted to see the new lot with the leaching field on it, and I think they have that. Yeah, note on the plan identifies that the location of the wetland has been compiled, so John's just indicating where we got that, we know where we got the wetland line. Refer to comment 9 below, and we get into lid stuff. I'm gonna flip through the rest of this, because I think a lot of this is gonna start to get into stuff that Greg and John are still gonna work on, which gets into drainage. I don't know if there's any more questions for the planning board.
I have a question for the planning board on drainage. I mean, they're showing tree box filters. Do you want to use tree box filters? Do you want to accept tree box filters?
Aren't those cement things that they put a tree in it? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
No. Ben? Because then they get to a certain point and they die.
They would need to, in my opinion, they would need to be inspected annually, and they need to be maintained, because everyone I've seen, the tree dies and then they
Yes.
fill with sediment and no one.
Right, no, I
takes care
don't
of
agree
it.
with tree boxes.
I've also rarely seen them in residential use. I've usually seen them in commercial. I mean, they're fine, it's LID, but just something to think about.
So if we use it, you wanna see that it's inspected.
I don't think we want to use them at all.
Well, I mean, the homeowner would need to understand that if and when, it's usually when the tree fails, it needs to be removed, including the root ball from a hole. There's
So that could be made a
concrete
condition of the operation and maintenance plan?
You know what, Stephen, in the course of human events, no one is going to do this.
They don't even do it commercial.
They don't do it.
Right, they don't do it at commercial properties.
So
So why have an operation and maintenance plan?
No, why have the tree box filter?
Because they're allowed.
Then why do you need to do it?
Because of the regulations require certain things, and Mr. Tanzi chose from the regulations what he thought was proper. So it's allowed in the regulations, so that's why he used it.
Okay, but what I'm saying is it doesn't work. In the long term, it doesn't. You can get your, why can't you just put them in the ground and be done with
discuss that with him and find out what the issue is with the tree box.
Thank you.
Right, and maybe John and Greg can be more innovative, come up with an innovative solution if there's an alternative that could be used easily. Right?
Okay.
There's a whole booklet of LID BMPs that could be employed, so sure.
Watershed plans, again, that's gonna be John, it's not really planning board, but that's gonna be John and Greg. Divides, he gave him the roof divides. Top of 12, second paragraph, John's satisfied with that. The next paragraph is one that Greg's gonna address, which is HydroCAD. John said it wasn't addressed yet, Greg will take care of that. Proposed conditions, John's got satisfied. And Greg is going to deal with the pipe sizing for the 4-inch pipe. That's, again, we'll leave that up to the engineers. Satisfied, lawn base, and so, yeah, this, all right, I'm just gonna flip quickly now because we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of the drainage, which we'll all go to sleep if we try to figure out what John and Greg does, but we'll,
You figured out where you're gonna put your snow.
Countryway.
Push it across the street.
Probably up at the end of the turnaround where they're gonna have an area on the grass area, I would imagine.
Well, it just can't go in the swales on the side of the common driveway.
Right.
Just tell us what page it was.
That's like saying DPW can't cover the drainage systems in any of the roads in town when they plow. Snow's gonna go where the snow's gonna go. I mean, we can tell you it's gonna go at the end if they plow the driveway and push it straight. That's great, it's out of everybody's way. I'm not gonna be there when the guy's plowing the snow. But, I mean, he can certainly tell them that it shouldn't go into the swale area on the driveway. And that can be part of a maintenance and operation plan as well. That can be made a condition in there. Okay, again, drainage. Yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the board is concerned, I think, and,
Well, I had a couple more comments.
Go for it, Karen.
any other ones?
I did not study these plans in depth yet because I know the drainage is not all done and the stormwater plans. But I guess I found the erosion control and limit of work a little confusing. I'm not all sure it's all there. And I didn't really see on the construction plan the siltation sumps to be used during construction.
Just note that they didn't revise any of that. That was reference to the old,
Yeah.
that part was not revised, so.
I mean, because you will need to keep your water on site both during construction and, you know, after construction. You have the standards for that, but this cannot go off-site during construction.
And as far as the confusion on the erosion controls are concerned, just so that the board understands, before we can start any work, first thing they have to do is put in the erosion controls and they have to be inspected. So if something doesn't seem right and John's doing the inspection, or Karen, either one, if they have an issue, we'll address it at the time, if it's confusing when they're on site.
Just make sure the erosion control and the limit of work are clearly labeled. I'm not sure they're clearly labeled on these plans.
Okay, so, we're all set for now?
John, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I think we're still good.
All right, so then we need to talk about a date for a continuance. How long do you think it's going to take to get this done? John needs, we basically need, after you submit, we need 4 weeks.
Can I put a smile on your face and tell you February 7th?
No, it
Because I
isn't.
called Paul and you said either take January 27th, which you
I
will
think
make,
it's
or
February 10th.
7th.
I think it's February
We'll do the
10th.
10th, how's that?
Okay,
So, again, we're pressing as hard as we can possibly do to get this done. It's been a long, long process. And we're hoping that we can get as much of the stuff as possible to John on the drainage issues itself. I'm hoping that we've addressed the common driveway stuff pretty much to the satisfaction of the board with what adjustments.
This is a public hearing.
Yes.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on 533 Country Way?
Steve, what did you continue to?
All right.
February 10th.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for stormwater permit and the public meeting for the site plan administrative review for common driveway at 533 Country Way until February 10th at,
Well, let me give you your options. We could do it at 6:30 and start all the zoning at 7:30. With that, we have to have our zoning public hearing that night.
6:30.
Okay.
PM, and to continue the time for action for filing with the town clerk until March
15th?
15th, the Ides of March.
And can I just comment, if anybody in the audience was here for this and they want any more information, they can get a hold of me anytime.
At 6:30?
All right, thank you very much.
I appreciate you listening.
Is there a second to this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Let's do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I guess they're gonna want a meeting. I guess they're gonna want a meeting.
Yeah.
So, let me know sometimes, okay?
Yeah, because might have to use it too. That's
Right.
I mean, I can meet later, but that doesn't, depending on.
Okay.
Yes. That's your hand up. Yes. Okay, our next item is a discussion of proposed zone amendment, section 810/830 with Robert Vogel. Good evening.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Irvine, members of the board, nice to see you all. Did these photographs get distributed at all?
No, I told you we weren't gonna distribute them. You're gonna just show them as you talk and go through this. I mean, we have we have a hard copy, but, you know,
Okay, so this is a little bit of visual aid in terms of what we're talking about. Board members who were here probably 2 years ago now might recall a discussion of this same topic. And then COVID came along and various things got put on the back burner. But this is back. It's a discussion on how to solve a problem in town that comes to our office, not, I would say, frequently on a weekly basis, but certainly many times a year. And that's the problem of abandoned and unused properties that have been allowed to deteriorate and become essentially blights on the neighborhood, unsafe, potential gathering places for potentially criminal activities, you know, all of the things that you can think of that you wouldn't want to live next to. Many of these properties have been abandoned for decades, literally decades, and they are in otherwise lovely neighborhoods where you'd like to live, where I'd like to live. And so you can imagine, I would like to actually pass these along to the board.
may have a copy.
Oh, you did? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. So you've seen some of the examples. There are others, but fortunately not many, but
The Egypt countries, the Egypt garage comes to mind.
well, it does. And, you know, not being a residential structure, we're trying to include that in this potential fix as well, and the Egypt Country Store for that matter, something like that. So what I'm proposing here is that we change section 810 to more or less incorporate the present section 830. 830 addresses non-residential structures. There doesn't seem to be any reason to try and differentiate between residential and non-residential structures. And the crux of the problem that we have with our present bylaw is the period during which you're allowed to repair or reconstruct if you're in a non-conforming situation. And I'll take 81 Surfside Road as a perfect example. That lot's 7,000 square feet, so it doesn't meet requirements for today's zoning. I believe the frontage isn't sufficient as well. So if I wanted to take that house down now, 2 years having well passed since the damage occurred, I would have an empty lot which I couldn't do anything with, except if a neighbor perhaps wanted to extend their land and buy it and add it to their land. So essentially, the lot is worth zero, even though it's a lovely spot in a lovely neighborhood. There's a couple of problems with that situation. I've talked with the town attorney, and if the town were ever brought to court in a serious manner over this issue, she thinks the town would probably lose, because what this represents is an uncompensated taking. The town has taken a property that was at one point worth, pick a number, $1 million, and made it worthless by means of the way the zoning is written. So all I've tried to do here, without changing anything more than needed to be changed, is allow that time limit, that 2-year time limit. First, 2 years is a state minimum time for this operation and phrasing and situation to exist. You can go more than 2 years, you just can't go less. So one of the things I'd like to do is expand the 2-year period to a 4-year period. Lots of things would be helped by that. A long probate, for example, of a will can take well over 2 years. A long divorce proceeding can take well over 2 years. There's various other circumstances that 4 years might cure, and we wouldn't have to go any further than that, because there would be time, in fact, to come along and repair your property or replace your property within that time period. Beyond the 4 years, I would propose that the Zoning Board of Appeals, by means of a special permit or finding, can allow the repair, reconstruction, or modification of a property at any time after it's been damaged. The restriction here would be that that property, subject to these new regulations, would have to lawfully exist in whole or substantial part as of the effective date of the bylaw. That's going to prevent situations like the old Town Way properties, which were wiped out in '78. Somebody coming along and claiming they have the right to rebuild there. So this is really to address blighted properties that we have now existing on the ground within the town. The other thing that I'm trying to include here is the provision that a non-conforming use doesn't necessarily fall within this new sort of more lenient bylaw. That would be, for instance, the Egypt garage. So the non-conforming use, abandoned or not used for a period of 4 years, can only be restored as a conforming use. As an example, to use the Egypt garage again, that could be restored as a residential property, that building taken down and restored as a residential property which met the requirements of the residential zone where it exists. And then also the a no non-conforming use, and this wording is within the existing bylaw. No non-conforming use if changed to a conforming use shall revert to a non-conforming use, which is only sensible. Further along here, as you can see, I'd like to include just all non-conforming structures within the boundaries of this new bylaw, and I don't see any reason there can't be. It would apply section 810.2 A and B, would apply then to a structure as opposed to only to single or two-family homes. There's probably not a lot of instances where that's going to come into play, but it seems to me it's easy to cover those instances by making these few changes. And then the last paragraph where you see the bold underline, that's actually wording that's already in 810.3, which I believe needs to be brought back into this new 810.2 to sort of complete it, finish it off, and bring the intent to the areas and to the level where it needs to be. So this would replace 810.3 as a part of 810.2. So that's the idea, to be able to have a route, even though it would be through the Zoning Board of Appeals, for owners or banks which may now own the property to give value to these properties, sufficient value to make them attractive for redevelopment and a resale or some other situation other than the just leaving them alone for years and years. I've gone over this with Karen, with Ann, with Anthony Bucciari, the chairman of the ZBA, and the ZBA will be sponsoring this and presenting it at town meeting. And everyone's in agreement that this is a needed change, and also I think that this is an adequate and proper way to go about it. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I mean, I think most of the questions I was here 2 years ago, whenever it was, I think
Right.
most of the commentary I had was covered at that time. I see that now we're changing it to any structure, which is, like I said, I think it makes sense, for in these instances of former commercial buildings or whatever, so I get that. I don't have anything really at this time.
Rebecca? I don't either. I think this is a good proposal, just like I did last time, but we were just a little nervous that might be a little too open-ended. This is a little.
I think we definitely tried to tighten that up. That was a goal, without question.
I'd just add, on number 6 on the commentary, it says add, and then this wording, except that at this time limit may be waived for good cause. I think that unless we identify what constitutes good cause, we should, in fact, throw it back to the zoning board. So, with the time limit may be waived with the approval of the zoning board. So whoever the property owner is at the time just has to come in and say, hey, I have this blighted property, it's gonna be more than 4 years because of X, Y, and Z, and then leave it to the board to figure it out. But if we, I think we could get hung up on like what constitutes good or legitimate, but what if you just put it to a vote, take ownership of it? I think that would.
I think that's excellent. Yeah, I like that.
you know, I sat in on that, Patty was there as well.
Right.
But it's really interesting to see that there's now a new law in Braintree to address exactly what you're talking about.
Really?
Blighted properties. And the new rules impose a fine of $300 a day for each violation.
Violation meaning you haven't fixed it up within the given time? And
Anti-blight ordinance.
and what's the time period they,
They don't have, for example, they cite Motel 6 near Route 3.
Yep.
That was closed in 2017.
Right.
So that's been, 4 years. It's just, the new rules define blight properties as those with collapsing or missing walls, which we have, roofs or floors, extensive fire or water damage, et cetera, for more than 30 days. Unsound foundations, graffiti left up more than 30 days, and so on. I mean, this is a little onerous,
I would say,
yes, but be interesting to see how well this is enforced
well, how well it's enforced and if it gets challenged
in court.
in court and how it survives that.
But I found it fascinating.
That is interesting. I mean, there's no question that the original intent of this bylaw was to do something just like what you've said.
Yes.
You know, make it incentivize people to quickly make repairs.
Yes, it was. It was in the local section, and it's up to the building inspector and the board of health. It was approved 7-1 by the town council on November 2nd. So.
Interesting, very interesting.
Karen, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, we just wanted to get this before the board so that when we have to start going into the zoning workshop in January before the public hearings in February, that the board can be thinking about this and try to, if you have any comments, try to get the comments to us so that it can be thoughtfully considered, because something like this does need to pass.
Yes, it does. But it has to be succinct and understandable, because zoning makes people crazy. They don't fully understand. Okay?
Yes.
So we have to keep it simple, stupid.
Couldn't agree more.
And I
And,
think Bob McLean's was absolutely on point.
yeah, I mean, the fewer terms that you put in there that need definition or that are subject to interpretation,
And we don't
the
want
better.
that. No, the less interpretation, the more it is, I think the better we'll all be. Okay?
Agreed.
All
Yep.
right. Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Thank you. Okay, our next item is discussion vote extension of stormwater permit 8 Berry Lane, Assessor's Map lot 005-2-13A, applicant owner, 5212 Bayberry Road, Realty Trust, Joseph P. Joyce.
I don't.
Good evening.
Let the record show that Rebecca Lewis is recusing herself from this.
Yes.
My name is Joe Joyce. I'm the trustee for 5212 Realty Trust, the owner of 8 Bayberry Road. I'm here, we have an existing stormwater runoff permit that expires this February. I'm requesting an extension on that stormwater runoff permit because I can do some of the work, but not all the work. Some of the work I could do is the wall work, but I can't do the infiltrator work according to the terms of the stormwater runoff permit because I have approval with conditions. Some of those conditions are running the pipes up, connecting them to the leaders, downspouts, gutters. And due to the situation on the property, we don't have a house under construction. And part of the intent of that is to delay it, so that we won't have a house under construction. My request is an extension. We're going into the winter, the ground is hard. This is not the best time to be doing stormwater runoff work. It's best to be doing it in warm weather. My request is an extension on that stormwater runoff permit for 15 months. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
I think this is a reasonable request to grant because the permits, the building permit, et cetera, has been appealed. It just makes sense to try to extend it so that hopefully everything can get resolved and the stormwater can all be put in properly.
Comments from the board? This is not a public hearing.
No.
Now, and I may add also, there's a letter in there from the engineer stating, I was requesting lowering the wall on the right side. I think that's something I could continue the conversation with Karen. But the potential buyer for the lot in good faith is trying to work with the neighbor, offering to reduce the grade on their property. And in order to reduce that grade, if I reduce the stone wall up by the house, it's not near the stormwater runoff work at all. You'll note that in the letter from the engineer. That also is something that I'd be looking to do.
And I believe that makes a lot of sense, and it does not impact the stormwater design. It's just merely a grading thing. And I recommend approval of that.
Thank you. And there's no comment from the board? Allison? I move to accept Joseph P. Joyce's request as trustee of 5212 Bayberry Road Realty Trust to extend the stormwater permit for 8 Bayberry Road for 1 year until February 12, 2023, and to approve the modification of the stormwater site plan revised date 11/11/21 to lower the height of the proposed retaining wall on the south side of the lot from elevation 17.5 to elevation 16.5 as the requested revision has no impact to the stormwater design. Is there a second? Second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, we have now, almost right on time, a public meeting, site plan administrative review, 131 Front Street, Assessor's Map, Lot 50-3-22, applicant owner Blaine Curtis.
Perfect.
Good evening.
How are you? Thanks for the time.
Okay, identify yourself.
So, my name is Blaine Curtis. I'm the owner of 131 Front Street. I'm also the owner of 111 Front Street. The purpose of this site review is for a change of the use of the building. Just to give you a little background, I bought this building in September of 2020. Gone through an extensive exterior renovation. The interior of the building is still in an open shell. The two tenants that I've identified are in the audience. I'm happy to have them come up here and speak to the operation of the business. One would be a juice bar, Harborside Nutrition, as well as Vine Bar, which is a wine bar, and we can get into those details. But just give a little background on the building. There's no change in the envelope of the building. Entrances remain the same. We did add and make several improvements to the building, including ADA access on the north side by the gas station. That would be the only change to the impervious, where we had to add a ramp for that ADA. Should be very little change to actually drainage of the building. The two proposed tenants for the first floor, as I mentioned, Harborside Nutrition, it's a smoothie and juice bar, and then Vine Bar, which is a wine bar and restaurant. I think this is a very good complementary set of tenants, particularly, as you can see in the packet, the hours of the operation do offset. We'll get into parking, but that's obviously, my intention was to try to find use of this building that will reduce the parking requirements. And I think both businesses would be a great addition to Front Street. On the second floor, we do propose 3 residential units, 2 two-bedroom units and one bedroom unit. That would require, 1 parking spot per bedroom, so 5 spots. Previously, the building was used on the top floor. It was a multi-tenant office space with some CPA firms in it. It was vacant at the time I bought it, but they were in existence for a very long time. The first floor was Sylvia's by the Sea. It was a residential. It was actually 2 units. She took over at some point in time, both of those units. So that was the existing use of the building, and we're suggesting to change the use for both spaces. The change of use should reduce the parking. I know that's a sticking point we'll get into. Should reduce the parking requirement by 9 spots. Just like I did with 111, I tried to increase the parking as best as possible. It was not a marked spot. They were using one of them for a dumpster. I did expand the area for parking. I designated it as 7 spots. I also, as one of those spots, added an ADA handicap spot. So both of the ground floor businesses should have ADA access. There's a handicap spot. Did an extensive renovation on the exterior. Also improved the fire systems, the sprinklers. There was no alarm on anything. That brought, the sewer I just had inspected today, brought in a new water line. So extensive improvements to the overall building, and hopefully you've seen the exterior as well. It wasn't the best looking building, and hopefully we've improved that for Front Street.
Unique building.
It definitely had a hint of 1980 on it, but.
1986, because I was at the planning board at the time.
All right, well, hopefully it wasn't your design, but.
Oh, gosh, no, and I have to tell you, that was wonderful. And that's half to
You know.
fell down in the next floor, so.
Everything has its time, but hopefully we improved it. And like I said, I know parking's a challenge. It was a challenge with 111 Front Street. Actually, the owners of Hibernian are here, and I think that's worked out quite well for the area. And as far as parking as well, we haven't had any issues that I'm aware of. So, happy to kind of jump into all those into that discussion. But try to find businesses to fill this space that are complementary. Try to improve the parking. Does reduce the overall requirements from the prior use by 9 spaces. Obviously, you're not going to meet anything in the Harbor District, as we discussed last time with 111. I don't think there's any businesses down there, to my knowledge, that do meet, but trying to improve what we have. And, obviously there's greater discussions about parking in the Harbor District, but for our building, we try to maximize what we have.
Karen?
So we did get a comment in today that from the sewer division that the sewer line has been inspected and passed according to the new sewer rules and regs. We got comments from the water division, and then you all got a comment from Mr. Warner,
Yes.
which I don't know if you want to read into the record or if you just want to summarize the contents for people before we get into other things.
Mr. Warner is, if I may paraphrase, very concerned about parking, very concerned. And I understand his concerns, having been around here for a while. Unfortunately, Front Street, let's take CVS as an example. There are people in town that if they can't park in front of CVS, it's inadequate parking in the harbor. And I was chairman of the parking study 31 years ago, after the reconstruction. And the Welsh company did lose 7 spaces in front of the building, and there were probably a few more that left town too. It's just, sometimes I think we sort of kind of create our own hardship, because the Welsh company has changed. And now it is condos, and the parking there may or may not be adequate. There are condos all over the place, they're residential. The movie theater is going to switch to another 3 or 4 condos. Where are those 14 people going to park? Nowhere. So, we've seen a lot of changes, we have. And there is no good, viable solution. The only thing that, back in the day, there was thought of taking the piece of property behind the Shell station by eminent domain and turning that into a 3-tiered garage. I sent a letter to the Shell Corporation and asked if they would be willing to sell. It was not for sale. Who knows, maybe it would be for sale today. To think about some type of, that end of Front Street, some type of parking.
Right.
But, I have a business in North Situate. I virtually have no parking. And I have come to the realization after 31 years, if people want what I have, they'll show up.
Great.
And they do. So, after 31 years. But in deference to Mr. Warner and the fact that he wrote this letter, I would be more than happy to entertain any further comments that you might have on it.
Well, I think the letter's pretty self-explanatory. In Mr. Curtis was just mentioned that he's putting in apartments, that there are five needed parking spaces, which leaves basically 2 and a handicap space to have a 66-seat restaurant and a 17-seat juice bar. And the reality of the situation, we bought a movie theater back when it had 650 seats and had the right to park in Cole Parkway. Reduced that amount quite a bit. And we haven't built any condos yet in that, but just to me, to take a different point of view, whatever we do is definitely reducing the need for parking than what the movie theater needed going forward.
I would suggest to you that the movie theater was 2.5 hours, twice a day, and they left, and Cole Parkway was empty. When you have residences, they're there at night, or if they work from home, they're there all day. It's very different.
Just to my point, so when you're running a juice bar, and you have 66, wine bar, pardon me, and you have 66 seats, and the people come to park, and they park next to his building, and when the people who live there come home at night, where do they park?
Well,
human nature is, they'll do what I would do. What I would do is park as close as I can
Right.
to my house or to where I want to go. And where they'll park is across the street in the lot, which I do have some control over. And I have tenants in my lot that talk to me all the time about, what are you going to do about this? We have people, elderly people, that try to get to the restaurants, that try to get to the different shops, that can't get there because there are people parked overnight, there all weekend long, right next to the shops. It just creates more of a hardship. My point being that is, I'm gonna hit on the same point that you just made, Ann. You've been here for a long time, and I was back with Joe Hayes at the meetings when we were trying to get that land. That was part of a proposal, I think, that we came up with, that we contact them and even contact Tom Goodrich, who owns the house next to his property and Joby's property, and maybe have a parking lot that went through to both sides, from Allen Street to Harbor Heights. But there's other options there too. There are places like Murphy Carty Insurance and other buildings up behind TK O'Malley's in this land behind that. And I really think that after the town removed the 20-something spots from Front Street because of the Front Street repaving, re-sewering, re-drainaging in 1989, it really hurt the northern end of the harbor. And the planning board back then said they were going to find parking off-street to make up for that. But here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. So my point being, it's going to force our hand at some point to say that our lot may have to be restricted.
And at one point, it was.
It was, it's been restricted in the past.
Yes, and when I worked there in the old days,
Right.
it was restricted. If you were still in that parking lot at 6:30 or 6 o'clock at night, you were there for the duration because it was locked.
It was locked in 1980 when we bought the property up to about 1983. That lot was gated and locked
Yes.
every night. And you're aware of that.
I'm well aware of it.
That's not where we want to
I
go.
understand. We have to come, would you just do one favor?
Sure.
Would you please identify yourself for the record, sir?
Sure. Robert Warner, owner of the Mill Wharf Restaurant, Welch Company, Scituate Harbor Development, on and on.
Just as an aside, but did you sell the Welch Company? There was a transfer in the paper.
No.
No?
The Welch Company,
11.5 million.
the marina sold.
Ah,
Ken Duval sold the marina.
so it's just the marina that's
Just the
gone,
marina.
not the buildings or anything else?
No, nothing.
Thank you, that clarifies a lot. Thank you very much.
And Dogger Reynolds sold his marina also. Same buyer,
Wow,
yeah.
okay. You're right. You are right in terms of the parking. We have to figure something out. And I am not sure how we can go about it. People at 124 Front Street are beside themselves because they have no place to go to park overnight.
And in their defense, they're told to go to Cole Parkway. The only place you can park in Cole Parkway is Section D.
And you get
and
flooded.
that's in the grandstand. And it's like, okay, why don't you tell them to park at St. Mary's?
Or, wait till your car gets flooded. So, that said, as far as your parking is concerned for your residents,
Right.
that has to be marked, residents only.
Right.
You will be towed at owner's expense.
They will be numbered.
And
according-
the other thing is, as far as lot number 1, you've got your trash behind it, you can't have a parking space there.
Right.
You can't.
That's fine. I just was trying to make the point that obviously it's going to be used, that whole back area will be used as loading. There's actually a path behind the building so that any, Unit 2 is the one on the gas station side, I guess the north side. They can access any of their deliveries through the back of the building. So yes, that will be used as a loading area. I was just trying to make the point that nights, weekends, no one's going to be doing loading there. So it is partial spot. But, like I said.
That's iffy.
It should be, you stripe them out, you make everyone else
I'm
stripe
happy
them
to stripe
out.
it. If that's what everybody wants, that's totally
So-
fine,
Maybe you can clarify a little bit, because the planning board has to make they have to find that their standards of review are met. Where is the actual loading and deliveries going to occur? How is that going to happen?
So in the spot numbered 1 on the site plan is the spot that we're talking about being striped as a loading zone. The concrete pad that is directly in front of it, which would be where the trash and recycling would be stored. Prior, Sylvia's had a dumpster in spot 1. I think we're gonna try to make it a little more sightly and push it back, put a fence up, and probably just actually, I don't know if you know the problem with, Mick can tell you, dumpsters, you can't get them emptied anymore, and actually it's quite easy to have more of a residential service, so we'll probably just do more like a Graziano and get the residential bins.
But I don't see, where is your delivery going to be? Will it happen on Front Street? Will it happen?
So obviously, they can pull in that spot 1, depending on what type of vehicle it is, and offload, and that is a pathway behind the building and to get to the gas station side. So you wouldn't have to traverse across Front Street at all.
But you're gonna have trash stuff there.
Obviously will be a path through.
You're just gonna have
Cans,
right?
yeah,
Cans.
decided cans, and just have them emptied more frequently.
And are there any meters over there?
So the gas meters are along the wall. We've actually relocated them up.
Okay.
They're actually being installed
That's good.
like next couple of weeks.
So they won't be hit by anybody?
No, so they were actually too low. They would be covered in snow, so we've moved them up. So we've been trying to improve the property as best as possible, obviously, a lot to do.
Karen, do you have anything else?
All right, so, the planning board has to go through these, I'm just gonna briefly run through them, and we can, protection of adjoining premises against detrimental and offensive methods of using the site. I believe they're showing proposed fencing, adjacent to is that Shell Station?
Shell Station, there will be a fence up in the next 2 weeks, actually, and they're totally fine with it.
Okay, so I believe, and then there'll be fencing, the trash area will all
Trash area
be
will be
fenced.
fenced in as well.
So I believe that protects the site, and other people. Traffic safety and ease of access to the street, exit, site distance. I'm gonna say I think that appears to be acceptable. I'd like a new striping plan to stripe out that one parking spot.
It's totally fine.
Safety of driveway layout, pedestrian safety, off-street parking, loading, adequacy of access for service. So, it seems that by striping out the loading area, that should be a good thing, because the original building, the unique building, had that loading area striped out as well. There is going to be the handicap parking on the side, so there'll be 6 spaces over there.
Yes.
The ADA for the Vine Bar is going to be around on the side.
Yes.
Adequacy of sewage, waste disposal, trash. They'll have to pay fees to tie into the sewer. They're going to be adding grease traps. They will have an enclosed dumpster, so I believe that standard is met. Adequacy of drainage, my understanding is there's no changes to drainage, there's no structures on site. Snow storage, you'll have to probably remove the snow from the site if it can't be stored on the site. The fire chief did, Deputy Elliott did indicate that the proposed location of the fire department connection corresponds nicely with the location of the striping for the handicap space, for the space, the 5-foot area. So he's willing to accept that as clear access to the fire department connection. This is not in the water resource protection. There's no cut and fill. There's no really scenic views from publicly accessible locations. Parking is, it's not really buffered and shaded, but I'm not really sure that there's even room for a tree in that area. I did see there was a planter or two out there today, which if there is some type of planting, that would be good. There are sidewalks down to Cole Parkway and along Front Street, so there is a safe path to parking. So I guess that Mr. Curtis and I kind of differ a little bit on how many seats are required, how many parking spaces there are. Based on numbers that I calculated and discussed with the building commissioner today, all the spaces in the Vine Bar, there's 67 seats and there's 14 standing spaces, and it says that there's occupancy is for 81. So 81 really has to be the number taken into account for the parking spaces. So 81, we'll just say divided by 4 for 4 people sitting at a table is 20.5. There's 5 residential parking spaces along the side, and then 1 more 6. And there's 4 spaces needed for the juice bar, according to the seats that they show. There is more capacity in that building. That comes to, by my calculation, 29 spaces.
The hours of operation differ. So
Yes,
would that need to be added then, or?
No, well, I'm not, he said that he staggered the hours, but but parking for everybody for the Vine Bar and Nutrition is going to be down in Cole Parkway or on Front Street. So where I'm attempting to go with this is that if the existing use was 35 parking spaces based on the square footage of office and retail, this is not an increase in demand. We differ about how many spaces, but it's not an increase theoretically in demand. So therefore, it should be, under our zoning bylaw, it should be allowed. Because the building was there January 1st, 1988, and these change of uses are not, quote, increasing the demand as indicated in the zoning bylaw.
And the Vine Bar does look a little,
I'm happy to. Do you want to,
yeah.
you guys want to come up? Yeah.
Sure.
Shannon and Jen, they're the operators of the Vine Bar, so happy to have them.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm Jennifer Knowles.
So tight in terms of like
It just appears tight.
the seating?
Yes.
So I could provide you with a larger plan that you could see, but it's all has enough ADA access and space to be accessible, which is why that sort of that middle area, that drink rail is standing only, Because if we put seats there, there wouldn't be enough space.
We had the same concern with the Hyberg Cabin.
Say your architect and builder also.
Yeah. Those were drawn by an architect who made sure that all the,
So their architect and builder do restaurants, so this is, they have a lot
that's
of
their background.
expertise.
And we walked it with tape to make sure from where we were thinking of banquette or table seating. And again, to reiterate what Shannon said, that's how we came up with the drink rail idea, just, Nick kind of had the same idea as you were saying. It gives ease of access, but it also gives ease of access all the way to the back, because that's something that we have to be very thoughtful of for our guests and for our staff, is that there's enough space to fit between tables, seats, and be able to get to the back area of dining.
And restrooms?
in the restrooms, yeah.
Yep.
Can I ask, what is the fire code call for how many people could be in somebody's square feet? Do we have a code about that?
Well, it's funny you say that. Bob calculated that today.
Okay.
That's why he's here.
In the building code, the way it's done is for each use, there's a per square foot allocation for each person. So you can do the math pretty easily. Restaurants are considered an assembly use, A2 actually. And I calculated the net space, which is the space where tables can go or people can stand at the bar, but not behind the bar, for example, not storage, not kitchen areas, not toilet rooms or things like that. So I came up pretty close to what Blaine came up with, just a rough calc, 1667 net square feet for both uses together. The wine was 854, the juice was 813. Anyway, the table on the code, which is right here, basically says if you assume everybody is sitting down at a table, then you use 15 square feet per person. So let's assume that, and that 1667 divided by 15 gives you a capacity, again, both units combined, of 111. If you assume that some people are standing, that capacity could be more, but if you were just looking at this as two basic restaurant A2 uses, you'd come up with 111 as a total capacity.
But
81 and 17.
I just want to clarify that, so the juice bar, we had a debate, and Karen clarified to call it a restaurant, but obviously it's mostly takeout. So there is Bob's adding them together, but I just want to be clear that there's distinctly different uses between those two spaces. One's at least half takeout.
So I call it 98 versus 111.
I have another question. How do the residents get into this?
It's a great question. So in the prior 1981, they were all jammed into a tiny little front entrance. So I actually reconfigured the building, so there's a separate door on Allen, which will allow a separate private lobby for those people to enter there with a separate stairwell.
Okay, and where is there an exit?
Yes, so the existing rear exit is still there, so so both the means of egress, the second means of egress, is the same for the whole building. They can actually get down to that back hallway
All right.
and out that same door.
Okay, so I'm big on, I have to get out of here. I think
Yeah.
that's very, very important, very important. You've got people out there, they need to,
It's quite easy. That means literally out one side, out the other. And actually, before I did anything with the building, worked with Bob on this.
okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
I have a question that doesn't really pertain to this.
I don't know if it was Bob saying, where is there other land, maybe for parking? Like, other than behind the Shell station?
Like I said, possibly across from TK O'Malley's, where Murphy County Insurance is. There are a few spots, actually.
There are actually.
Actually,
I have some other comments, though. I don't think anyone's addressed anything about deliveries. I know running a restaurant, I get El Knife, Burke, Martinetti, US Foods, Reinhardt, Gorton, and trailer trucks. And when I went in front of this board to get approved for the mill wharf, I think I had to go through 3 meetings to get that all approved, just to have design and times of when deliveries could be made on a private lot. And I think the board ought to consider what that's gonna do when this restaurant tries to get deliveries during the summer, when it's busy in Front Street. Where are these people, where are they gonna get these delivery trucks?
I don't think, if I brought it up,
Yeah,
about this side delivery isn't going to fit a beer truck. And, and,
Night truck.
no, and also, you're right on, what is that? Allen
Allen Place.
Allen Place, that's pretty narrow. And you put a tractor trailer up there for a delivery, you got a problem. You do.
So there is space behind the parking spots, so it is a little bit wider there between the music store and mine. So there have been trucks, if they pull over, they're a longer length. Obviously, if they're shorter length, they can go in that parking spot, but also just to make the distinction between a full-fledged restaurant and a wine bar who's, you know, we gave you a copy of the menu, right? Much reduced menu versus that type of fare. But, you know, obviously it's challenging. I think we try to do the best we can with what we have, and any type of business gets deliveries. Obviously, I understand, you know, there's also gonna be a lot of stuff in this day and age that comes through mail too. I mean, there's gonna be trucks no matter what we put in there. But we try to make a point to have access to both, actually all 3 uses from Allen. Get it off of Front Street. There is some room to pull to the side. I mean, there have been construction going on my property. Actually, there's residential one up the street. There's cars parked there. You can get by it. It's decently wide. And actually, I'm not, just to bring up that point, I talked to Mr. Warner last night, and we are aligned on the whole parking. And there's a lot of the building owners on this side that are all aligned to fix parking. And, you know, Cohasset did a very good job of making some one-ways and putting parking. I mean, that's something that's been proposed before, but we're all aligned with trying to helping that as well.
Well, maybe to Mr. Warner's point, some of these deliveries should be first thing in the morning.
Well, and I can speak to that as well. So I've opened 5 different properties from inception in highly trafficked city areas. The one I opened last was a block away from the White House on 16th and I, where the Black Lives Matter is now. And I needed to ensure that every single one of the deliveries that was coming in was timed in a window frame. And this was a full-fledged fine dining restaurant with a big bar and everything else. And with finagling and maneuvering and being very communicative, I was able to create designated windows because we were only allowed to have 1 truck of a certain length. I did the same thing in San Francisco on the Embarcadero, and then down at the new wharf in DC as well, where there was no parking other than a garage. So it is a very, it can be very frustrating, but as long as you're very communicative and set up those standards right from the start, and are also willing to send people away if they don't come at the right time, because it's their time, I was able to manage it very effectively. And that was wine, beer, booze, and a lot of different food purveyors.
I would totally disagree with that. In Scituate Harbor, they show up when they show up. They come at 5 o'clock on Friday sometimes. It depends on when their trucks are loaded and how their route goes and when they break down. And they're going to take their trucks and they're gonna park on Front Street and unload, because a lot of them won't even pull up Allen Street to unload. They're big trucks.
We'll turn them away. They will be turned away.
Well,
They will
then
not be
you won't
allowed to
have
deliver. But that's how,
You won't have product.
certainly, for
Yeah.
sure, and I don't want to argue that, I'm just,
Let
yeah,
us not get into a big
Okay.
debate here.
yeah, for sure.
Okay? This is, your point's taken,
Okay.
yours as well.
Mhm.
There's a lot here. And I think that, frankly, I'm not sure that I'm willing to approve this evening. I think that this is something that we need to really do a little bit more fine tuning with in terms of, Karen?
Well, what would you like to, I mean, what information would you like them to submit to help you be able to make a decision, I mean, about deliveries or any of the things that are parking, what information they tell them what they need to submit?
I think you need to submit to us your deliveries, how you plan to set all of that up.
I have a question. Before we move, I'm actually with the juice bar.
Would you please identify?
Do you want, sit there, you want to Elise?
Sorry. So I'm Elise McIver. I'm with Harborside Nutrition. This is Leah. She's one of the owners. So I just wanted to see, I totally understand needing to kind of figure things out because it is a tight situation and there is an immense burden on parking, obviously, on the harbor. So I do understand the need to get more information. I know that we're worried about deliveries, we're worried about where people are gonna go. And we were asked to submit, obviously, as a package with the entire building. Is there a way, I understand if you do need more information for different things, but is there a way to at some point maybe break apart the juice bar approval versus the entire package together? We've been working on this, since November of last year, just waiting and getting all our ducks in a row. And we, obviously can't start any kind of building until planning has approved. We've already been approved by the building commissioner for our permit we've been tentatively approved, we're just waiting on all the sign-offs. So Karen knows, but we've gotten sign-off. We've checked in with the Board of Health, he said he's good. We've checked in with the building commissioner, he's good for all our permits to build the juice bar. We're kind of just waiting on planning department. Would there be a way to break that apart while we kind of work through different things that you need for the property regarding the wine bar, regarding the apartments, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, whatever it may be? Would there be a way to break that apart and approve our use?
Well, aren't there gonna be deliveries to the juice bar too? I mean.
So, no, we don't get any kind of 18-wheeler trucks, no, we don't have anything like that. Honestly, I can show you all my stuff, but a lot of our deliveries are, like, we go and we get fresh fruit once every couple of days, and that's something that we usually go do. We use a lot of protein powders, and they come in regular, like a regular FedEx, like you see, like that comes to your house. So that's really the biggest truck we've ever gotten, has been the kind of truck that would pull in and deliver your Amazon package. We don't do any food, any hot food, anything like that. We're really just pretty much making smoothies and some tea.
I would say, we had this conversation, and Karen felt like it was the best to do it all cohesively, and I agree, right? But this is what I was worried about, is that I don't want to have any issues with one of the three holding up the whole thing.
I understand.
Well, can you talk about the schedule? I mean, when are you gonna desire to be in there?
Hi, so for us, so we'd love to be in, honestly, the sooner the better, because we have a great plan. There's a huge demand for it. We don't have a huge burden on the community as far as big trucks and as far as parking goes. A lot of our people they're on foot. They're either out for a run, they're working out, they're coming from the surrounding shops, they're coming from the workout place across the street. Like, that's a lot of our clientele. Right now we have a shop right in Columbian Square, which obviously also deals with very tight parking. We have a space there. We have a space in Abington Center which has 0 parking, but people do find a way, as you had said, to come even when you don't have parking. If they want it, they'll figure it out. They're willing to walk. We would like to open sooner rather than later.
And just for the Vine Bar, they're doing an extensive build out. It's going to take time. It took me much longer on this renovation. You just can't get any work done. So, obviously being open for the summer is what you want to have. And that's why there's a hustle. And we've been trying to get in front of you guys and, obviously preparing all these materials. And here we are in December. So I know the year's been flying by, but, the problem with the delay is the fact that you can't start construction. You can't get open for the summer.
Well, how long does it take for tenant fit up for the juice bar? How long does it take for tenant fit up for each one?
What does that mean? Sorry.
Like to
how long to do the interior construction?
Oh, well, I think there would be a different answer, right? Do you guys want to speak to yours? Because they're doing much more.
Do you guys want to go first? You're more than welcome, whatever you guys want.
We're probably at least 12 weeks.
Okay.
It's minimum. And that's almost not considering if there's any extensive delays in the supply chain, like if we can't.
Hire staff, soft opening, we're backing up to, this is, they need to be open.
We were hoping to be open so that, around April 1st, so that we had a couple months before the high season really started, to work out any sort of kinks in the thing.
Definitely.
You need to go before the Board of Selectmen for your permits.
Yes, but I think I would like to speak to the conversation that we had when Shannon and I came in before, and I think you had made it very clear that we should be following the process that we're following now before we took that next step. So we wanted to be sure that we were being respectful of your experience of telling us what to do. Because getting a liquor license at this point isn't something that's gonna help us.
What is available.
They are, yes. I spoke to Lorraine at the Selectmen's office, and there were none for a strict bar. There were 3 for a bar and restaurant. Or for a restaurant that serves alcohol.
All right, comments from the board?
Wait a minute, how long will the tenant fit up for the juice bar take?
Yeah, so as you guys know, we're experiencing a nationwide shortage on materials and in the construction industry. We actually have our contractor here as well, one of them, Sean, right there. But so it's really hard to say. So we would love to say, with everything, because you call in your rough permits, your rough inspections, then you have, I'd love to say 8 weeks. That's if materials come when they're supposed to. That's if the countertops come when they're supposed to. About 8 weeks from, 8 weeks from when you order them. I'm trying to go through all the ETAs in my head. But it is tough to say due to the industry delays, but we would love to say 8 weeks.
And then add a couple of months. Because look, I was supposed to turn this over to them in September,
Yeah.
and it just takes longer to do everything.
I'm waiting 15 weeks on candidates right now.
Yeah, that's a crazy delay right now in the industry.
So,
yeah, I get it. We
So I
did
think-
enjoy
and
them.
then Karen, when's the next meeting? Because I know with the
Well,
holidays.
that's what I was trying to get to. The
Not 2
next
weeks.
meeting is January 13th.
Yeah, so that would definitely,
So we
I
couldn't
mean-
get on the docket in November. There was the big town thing, and then here we are in December, and it's like.
And to speak to the supply chain issue, where we see those opening delays start happening is with that, obviously. And so if we have an understanding of where our start date is, we can start trying to work through those with our designers and our architects and things of that ilk.
It
Because
just-
their answers aren't going to be awesome.
It just gives you a perspective on 111, so they obviously take similar deliveries, and, sometimes you are gonna have a bigger truck, they stop for 15 minutes on Otis there, people manage just fine, like, the downtown managed just fine with our, Front Street closed, right? So, it's doable, obviously, you try to mitigate as much as possible, but if you have to put a large truck, I think it's pretty clear, not on Front Street. And on the up streets, it seems manageable.
And we do use a lot of smaller vendors. It's the sort of concept of the bar is that it's a lot of, we're not ordering from the sort of the big, sort of grocery store wines. And so we have a lot of smaller vendors that do drive vans, not the big trucks. Not to say that there won't be any, but there are a significant number of our vendors that are just in a sort of utility van
Yeah.
and can use that loading zone, no problem.
And I'd say that's about 75% of our beverage product because it's just craft beers and very small allocated wine. We're not dealing with big box brands. We're not dealing with bud trucks. None of that. And specialty food purveyors. So that's where that comes in also.
I think where this leads us here, you're on the traffic rules, and I'm going to take into account Mr. Ward's observations as well. I've lived here for a very long time. My personal opinion is all the parking gets kind of messed up when they made Cole Parkway A, B, C, D, E, F. Is that true? I don't know where I was supposed to park when I come down there.
I didn't even know that
Oh, God,
existed.
my car was still there when I walked, so that's how that goes. So maybe that's something that needs to be brought back to traffic rules with merchants in the harbor having, I know the police were behind that, but maybe they're willing to listen.
No, it wasn't just the, no.
No, but okay. But, so maybe there needs to be another open discussion about what's happening in Cole Parkway and about the restrictions on parking. Is that something that could be some of this? I don't know. It's a question.
Yeah, this is, as you know, like, you've fallen into this issue where we're dealing with an actual site plan review, and then we're dealing with kind of
Tangential.
changes,
Yes.
and some might call it a problem with, like, bigger municipal plan, right? So we have this issue in the harbor, it's the economic center of the town. We want people there, we want it walkable, but we have lack of municipal parking, and some of the private, property owners that are voicing their concerns that they already have issues with parking, this might exacerbate those, or whatever. But that's like the elephant in the room, right?
Yeah, it is.
We as a board, or as a town, it goes beyond just this board, need to solve this problem, because this project, this checks the boxes for what we want as a planning board.
Absolutely.
It brings economic development, it brings a more vibrant neighborhood fabric to the harbor, it brings new business and entrepreneurial spirit, it brings, which the harbor is somewhat lacking. I mean, it brings a lot of those things, so, it is difficult, and I know for me, I'll just finish on this note, since I want to give them very concrete. For me personally, I don't see how getting into a detailed operational plan of their deliveries, that seems to me like a burden to these folks to actually figure that out at this juncture. I'm more of a wait and see person. I live in the harbor, I walk there all the time. I've never once had an issue with pedestrian safety or driving where I really felt like I had to call the police or had road rage or anything with a delivery truck. I had TKs, Hibernian, Salt Society, Galley, I personally never encountered that as somebody that literally goes there every day. But that's, for me, the wait and see approach is good. Maybe a narrative might help us, to verbally understand how this is all
I would say, we had all these same conversations with Hibernian. I brought Mick here because, I'm not aware of any problems they've had, and that was a big discussion of putting such a restaurant, but that's been a big cornerstone of the Front Street, it's been very additive. So it's a high-class problem to have too many people walking up and down the street, right? I think that's, I'm assuming.
I don't want to make my decision based on the lack of parking, just as an overall existential problem in the harbor itself.
Right.
Maybe this is something that we need to consider at a higher level, not at this meeting. It's something else for us to entertain about a long-range goal, that we need to improve parking in the harbor.
And that's where Mr. Warner and I and Joby and I'm sure Mick, everybody agrees that and willing to work with that. I think there is a good appetite to fix things, where possible.
Unfortunately, it will take money. It will, to do something that's permanent, that is woefully needed globally.
And every project makes this more and more apparent to us that this is a project.
But like I said, in Cohasset, they were very successful, and that was just restriping, and they actually got 30 spots, just rethinking things, and, I think shutting down Front Street and rerouting traffic. I didn't hear, I'm from Cohasset, not Scituate, but I didn't see any huge problems with that. So there are ways, and I'm happy to be involved with that.
Certainly ways, because once upon a time, way back when, there was discussion of making Front Street one way, and then up Beaver Dam and down Hazel.
Right, right.
It's a big loop, which may or may not resolve things and would tick off the neighbors. So, that's.
Can't please everybody, right? But
Can't at all.
Well, I will bring it up at the next department head meeting. We do track, I do have a topic on our agenda. It's a constant one for Harbor Cole Parkway. I will bring it up at the next internal, development meeting and, see where we go.
And I will bring it to traffic rules again, to talk about Cole Parkway and the signage that's down there. It's absolutely outrageous. Yes,
Does
Stephen?
this also fall into economic development as well?
Yes. And where's our planning development person? Stephen?
Steve Bjorklund. I just want to say, if the town can pass a unanimous vote at town meeting to spend millions of dollars to save a little field, I would think they could spend millions of dollars and fix the parking problem by buying some of these properties and actually putting in a nice parking garage down there.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Thank you so much.
It's only logical.
I met with Joby this morning in his office, and he couldn't make it because he's at the North River Commission meeting tonight, and he asked me about the requirement for having an elevator for the residences. He had to put an elevator in his business. I had to put 4 in my businesses. that I've built, and I don't know what the requirement is.
We have the building inspector. You're on.
Okay. Bob Vogel, Building Commissioner. I'm looking into that with 3 units. It may not trigger the requirement. I need to do a little more research, Bob, which I promise I will do.
Okay.
I mean, because we discussed this in
Yeah.
length before I started all of it, right? And we agreed that it did not need one.
I
Okay.
concede that, however, I still need to do a little bit more.
Yeah, it is the number of units. We went through this in depth, and there was actually an elevator spec'd into the property, and I ended up deciding not to put it in, just given the scope of the project.
Can I just say one
Yes.
thing back to the parking? If there's certain parking spots around that area, is there any way to get those, like, can you rent them from somebody? Like,
Where are they?
Well, you were saying there's some, so I'm just curious.
No, I'm saying that the town needs to
Buy them or get them?
spend some money, as Steve said, some real money, and buy a couple properties, because there is no parking. As a matter of fact, the issue, that building, when it was Sylvia's building, was approved back when there was Front Street parking. So is there a question now that all the Front Street parking was taken away, that that is no longer available to them? And the town took that away from us, there's no doubt about it.
Actually,
Yeah.
with all due respect, it was the federal government that took that away.
The federal government gave us the money to do it.
But the specs from the federal government were such that the sidewalks had to be widened, you know.
The street had to be widened under a safety grant. I know all about it. I have the whole decision. I know exactly what happened. It happened though. So the federal government took it away, didn't take it away. The federal government gave us the money to do it if we took it away.
There had been talk a few years ago about potentially basically ripping up the sidewalk in front of your building and putting these parking spaces back, because it's been however many years since
According
then.
to Bill Orenberger, it can't be done. They put that in when they passed it, that it would carry on.
Perpetuity?
Yes.
Well, perpetuity.
And I've had
depends
that
on-
discussion, and not a cheap discussion.
No.
Not with Bill.
You know, another unfortunate circumstance is that I don't think back in 1986 there were any parking requirements.
No.
Parking came, I mean, this January 1st, 1988 is there for a reason, and parking requirements came in after that time. So, I mean, we're kind
We're between a rock and a hard
of, yeah,
place.
we are.
There were parking requirements when I applied for the Mill Wharf. I know that for a fact.
Well, I mean, I looked,
That was when, Bob?
That was 1983. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Surprising.
there's nothing in the old unique building file. I mean, it was approved without parking. That I know. It was approved without parking.
Like I said, I think this is a conversation. and
This is another time. All right, Karen.
It's up to the board. I mean, I would probably feel more comfortable.
I do. I'm with Ben on this. I think that if we're fulfilling what we're charged to do for administrative plan review, or site plan administrative review, then we should move forward with it and not delay it on behalf of the planning board. As far as like the delivery schedule and stuff like that goes, I think that's very important to know, and, you know, make sure we try to deconflict and that, but there are other stages of, you know, this process where other committees and boards that they have to go through, we'll need to address that also. And, you know, so we're not the final ones saying, okay, you know, you're good to go. But I think from our charge standpoint, I don't think that we should delay it.
I agree, like I said, it's not that this is going to stop or start this project, it's just gives us another impetus that this, we need to really think about
Right.
this.
Yeah.
And we
Oh,
appreciate,
as
I
far as the
appreciate that,
parking
yeah.
stuff goes,
Yeah.
that's, yeah, it's interesting. We need to figure it out, but not for this
Based on- yeah.
specific.
And I can discuss delivery schedules and things of that. And if you have any further questions about how I've handled that in the past, I'm certainly happy to offer any information I can.
Well, when we need it, we'll ask.
You got it.
Okay.
What do we have?
Hey, if that's what you guys want to do, I mean, you're going to have to add conditions. So I hope you're ready to punt here.
I mean,
I did attempt to come up with something, but I mean, I'm not sure that, I'm not sure that it's 100% there.
Okay. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
And Karen, are these some of the things that we ticked off earlier as well?
There's what?
Some of the, a lot of these were we ticked off earlier with you when you were going through your list.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah.
We did most of that so far.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So,
Up to you.
It's up to you guys. Rob?
I still don't see a reason not to move forward with it. I mean, move it along in the, in this regular process. And that, I mean, Karen, you were saying that you don't see it all the way there, but what would you?
Well, if you guys want more delivery schedules, we're going to have to add conditions in here. So I guess we can start going through it, and you guys will have to add conditions that you
No, I
want to
don't.
add in.
I personally don't want to know your delivery schedule, but I have a feeling that the town has an interest in it. And so going forward, as this goes through the other boards and approval processes.
There's no other boards for it to go through. This is it.
No, that's a liquor
liquor
license.
license.
Oh, all right.
I don't have a problem with, I don't really want to go much into delivery, that's a little onerous, that's a little bit of issue as far as I'm concerned. And I've been in the harbor, and there's plenty of trucks there, and I don't feel like my life is at stake. Karen, do you have any other outstanding issues that you feel that you didn't hit in this draft?
Well, we'll go through it. I mean, I want a new parking plan, but I've alluded to, a new parking plan that, we can change the wording when we get to it. That it's, we can change some of that wording. I tried to just quickly add some changes, but,
just to be clear, the parking plan, you just want a new striping plan.
yeah,
I'll have that to you in a week. Like, just need Morse to draw it on there. Yeah.
right.
It's fine.
Do you want to go forward or what?
I'm still just studying it for one more minute.
Okay. Yes, Ben? So what parking plan do you want? What's the new?
Well, he's gonna get me the new striping plan to stripe.
She just wants the existing with
Right.
spot 1 striped, which I'm happy to do.
And residential parking should be clearly marked,
Yes.
and violators will be towed.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And we can be sure that that's clear signage in our businesses as well.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I might not have added it, Ann, I marked up yours and mine. That's the other people don't have the marked up
No, that's fine.
copy of some of the changes I tried to make.
All right, why don't I read through this and we'll see where we end up, okay? This is a site plan administrative review. Based on a proposed site plan for 131 to 139 Front Street, Assessor's Parcel 50-3-22, Scituate, Mass. dated 8/5/2020, with revisions through 12/1/21 by Morse Engineering Company, Inc. Floor plans for proposed restaurants for Harborside Nutrition and Vine Bar, and supporting information of signage, hours of operation, and elevations. The application package for site plan review from Blaine Curtis received November 15th, 2021, and testimony provided during a public meeting on 12/9/21. The planning board opines that the requirements of the Town of Scituate zoning bylaw, section 770.6, site plan standards of review have been met to a degree consistent with the use of the site for the purpose permitted in the regulations of the district in which the land is located, and to approve the site plan administrative review of the Harborside Nutrition, Vine Bar, and residential uses with the following conditions. 1. All site work shall be in substantial conformance with the proposed site plan for 131 to 139 Front Street, Assessor's Parcel 50-3-22, Scituate, Mass. dated 8/5/21/21, with revisions through 12/1/2021. Floor plans for proposed restaurants.
I think it's 2021.
When did that go?
What am I changing?
2021.
I'm just reading what's here. You know,
100 years.
I'm following directions, what can I say? Vine Bar, proposed restaurants, blah, 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 blah. Conditions, modified to the conditions below. To approval is contingent upon all local approvals being obtained from the Town of Scituate. Materials and details of construction shall meet all the requirements of the DPW, Board of Health, Fire Department, and Building Department. Where this site plan administrative review requires approval, permitting, or licensing from any local, state, or federal agency, such required approval, permitting, or licensing is deemed a condition of the Town of Scituate Planning Board's approval of the site. 3, any required upgrades on site for sewer or water shall be at the owner's expense. 4, a commercial water meter is required for the businesses and a separate water meter for each residential unit. 5, suitable external grease facilities shall be provided. Proof of provision shall be submitted to the DPW Sewer Division, Board of Health, and Town Planner. A utility site plan shall be provided. A schedule for maintenance and pump outs shall be provided. An estimate for water use for the restaurant and bar locations shall be provided prior to building permits for tenant fit up. Karen, would you care to elaborate on that?
The sewer division asked for water use, and that hasn't been provided.
Okay.
So I only learned about this today. I do have it. I will submit it.
All right?
But only today, yes.
I know, but things move slowly.
I mean, we want to see the utility plan. He wants to see the utility plan as well.
It's a utility plan.
Is it just a mark off of
A
where?
location of where all the utilities are.
Okay.
I have that for us already that we submitted, actually.
So utilities didn't change location, but it's from the existing one, but we will see it. Okay.
Yeah, but they want to see them on a current plan so that if there's
Okay.
ever an emergency, people know where the shut-offs are, people know how to get the right, stuff.
Turn-offs.
Sure.
We need to have all that right up to date.
Yep.
The building uses require 29 parking spaces, 5 for the 3 residential units, 4 spaces for Harborside Nutrition, and 20 spaces for the Vine Bar, according to the applicant.
No, cross that out,
Okay.
cross that out.
So, cross out, what am I crossing out?
Just according to the applicant. Because
Parking spaces are to be striped on site.
6 parking spaces.
6 parking spaces. According to the revised plan, which includes 1 accessible parking space. Parking is available in Cole Parkway and Front Street for the 2 restaurants. The applicant maintains that the proposed usage parking demand of 26 total spaces is less than the existing demand of 35 spaces by a reduction of 9 spaces. The board calculated the reduction in demand to be 6 spaces. Sidewalks are available connecting all parking to the building. Staff parking will be off-site.
Will be off-site.
We don't need a minimum.
No.
A bike rack shall be provided. Construction shall be an interior build-out only as the exterior has already been modified. No further exterior modification shall be allowed except for painting, minor masonry work, signage, lighting installation, and fencing and walkways. 7, indoor seating is limited to a maximum of 17 seats for the Harborside Nutrition and 67 seats for the Vine Bar, and 14 standing room spaces at the Vine Bar. No outdoor seating is shown, proposed, or allowed. 8, hours of operation for Harborside Nutrition are limited to 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. Hours of operation for Vine Bar are limited to Wednesday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, 2 p.m. to 9 p.m., with closures on Monday and Tuesday. Loading and deliveries shall be maintained in a manner so delivery or trucks shall not block access in and out of the parking area or passage on streets. The loading service delivery area shall not be striped as a parking space and is to be striped. Shall not be striped. This doesn't make sense. Is to remain free from parking. Is to be striped and remain free from parking. 10, snow shall be trucked legally off-site if there is not room for snow storage on-site. 11, construction work shall not begin prior to 7 a.m. weekdays and 8 a.m. on Saturdays, and shall cease no later than 7 p.m. or sunset, whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sundays or legal and/or federal holidays. 12, signage shall be as proposed as shown in the application with down lighting. Any changes to the sign design shall be reviewed and approved by the town planner before application to the building department for a sign permit. No sign shall be affixed to the interior or exterior window surface. Residential parking, this is number 12A, shall be clearly marked and violators will be told.
Didn't I put something on number 16 on yours?
There's no 16 here.
Okay.
The project shall comply with applicable, I put that. Okay. 13, the project shall comply with applicable ADA and Massachusetts Architectural Access Board MAAB requirements. 14, solid waste is to be trucked off-site and stored in covered dumpsters as located on the plan. Trash shall be emptied at least once a week or more frequently if necessary, or as otherwise directed by the Board of Health. The dumpster area shall be enclosed on 4 sides. 15, the town plan is to be notified upon completion of construction. All right, is there anything else you all want to add to this? Yes. Oh, okay. Ben?
Okay, this is, and feel free to shoot this down, but just so everyone feels more warm and fuzzy, I thought maybe a condition, and Karen, you can also shoot it down because it involves you, but thought maybe something like this would be helpful. We have to pick a time for that, or maybe the applicant can pick the time, but once fully operational, a review with town planner or designee of the planning board shall be conducted to determine if changes should be made to delivery schedules, hours of operation, etc., to alleviate parking / traffic / pedestrian conflict. just a check-in really, and see that everything's good. I'm sure the office will be getting calls anyways if it's not, but.
Karen, what do you think of that?
It's up to the board.
Well, we didn't require that on Burley. We
No.
haven't done it for anybody else. We didn't do it for Salt Society. But I understand that aspect about the woman project, that we hear everybody's concerns. We definitely hear everybody's concerns. I think the spirit of what that was, we just somehow kind of worked that in, which is, you know, we probably just have to go down and have a walkthrough, like occasionally, to make sure everything's going okay. I guess, you know, but should we be tied to something? I like that.
I mean,
I like the
it
spirit
doesn't
of
have to be
it.
a legal
No.
Yeah, I like
condition, condition, I just thought it would be.
I like the spirit of it. I do, that, you know, we listen to everything. Everybody wants
Good
it.
faith.
Yeah, I mean, we're all
Yeah.
open to be collaborative on this. I mean, obviously probably not when you first open, you work it out, but yeah, once you get in a groove, yeah.
Exactly like that. It's really good to have this, you know, that we're watching everybody. We do. Yeah.
Well, it also will help us
Yes.
inform the planning board, larger picture, what are the bigger conflicts that start to rise to the surface, all of these establishments.
It'd be a good practice to start doing it in a general sense, especially in a more dense area.
Rebecca? Okay, my question was on the loading zone, which is going to be straight. And Karen, this is a question I guess for you. Can there be parking there after a certain hour?
Well, we don't typically know what time loading is going to be. I mean, you typically do not allow it on your other projects.
Okay, then fine. And just the shortness of spaces, I mean, the lack of parking is really what I was thinking. People deliver late,
As far
like
as,
after 5. But if we don't allow it, we don't allow it.
oh, I was just thinking myself, sometimes like deliveries are late for some things. I don't know about in Scituate.
We won't be getting deliveries once the restaurant's open.
It's not allowed.
What time you're open then?
During the week, 4.
And so all deliveries are before 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in my experience and what I've done with the past, if there are any delays, if something's out of stock or couldn't get there because of weather, whatever it might be, it is hand delivered by a distributor, by like our rep, if it's a Saturday. There are no trucks out there, and there's no trucks on Mondays either, so.
I was just trying to add a spot, so I'm happy to stripe it off and not use it too. That's fine.
Mr. Bajorlin?
I just have a recommendation. It's reasonably simple. You have one condition that says that there shall be no other changes to the exterior of this other than paint. And what you might want to say is without proper permits. Because otherwise, if they do change something in the future, with proper permitting, you may have to come back and change this decision. So if you let them get permits, if they want to do something 20 years down the road, at least you don't have to do anything with this.
So it's number
About
6.
halfway through.
Number 6, okay.
Yeah, that's the last sentence.
No further, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not appropriate permits. All right, is there a second on this?
Second.
Further discussion?
On number 8, hours of operation, that's all depend, they don't have a liquor licensure, correct?
Well, that's not,
Okay, that's not up to us, okay.
It's in line with the other businesses around us who have the same times.
And I would advocate for number 10, that the snow be trucked legally off-site. There's nothing being removed for snow.
there is no room.
So you need to take that, if there is not room for snow storage, you need to take it off-site. Do we agree on that?
Yes.
So you want to take.
Wait, sorry, what's the point? What is the language you're proposing?
The snow removal.
Yeah.
So it says it can be trucked legally off-site if there is not room. Well, you might think there's room, but, your next door neighbor, that is a very.
Obviously, there might be an open spot if, the residents get spots, but they might have one car. I don't know, it just seems restricted, obviously, for common sense, if there's no other place to put it, it'll solve itself, but.
It'll melt.
Well, the parking's so full, it can't fall on the spots, right?
It'll just go down to Cole Parkway.
Is the board adding Ben's condition?
Yes.
No.
Oh, I did spirit of it. I beg you.
No, I mean,
No,
we
we can.
I think you discussed doing it like
could just
On
do
a-
it in good faith, not.
harbor-wide thing.
Yeah, condition.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this problem, we'll hear about it.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
No question about that.
And so will we.
Okay. Okay. Any more further discussion? All those in favor of approving this site plan administrative review, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you, take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your insight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen. We will deal with parking.
20 years ago.
I think it's still the shaft in there, but.
Hey.
You know what?
I'm pretty sure that the number we went
Let's
through.
talk tomorrow, but I think it's.
I'm pretty sure it's 4 or something like that. We talked about it. Remember I did this generator upstairs, the same cost. The number is.
Now I have people, now.
Let me know if it's, I'll,
Somebody
You can have 40 people. I said, Joey, where do these people park? I know if it's parking, I'm here to What's gonna happen is the Welch Company wants to end up closing. It's gonna shut down, and that's not good for anybody. I can solve it.
Thanks, Bob.
I can solve it.
I said that, it's money.
But who makes the call?
We will start the conversation.
Town meeting.
We will
Yes,
start.
planning director, where is our planning director?
Yes, we will discuss this.
You know what, we're at a point where when, like Jody's having functions upstairs, and, you know, we're a harbor of April to October. We're not, what's going on there now is not an issue at all. So what happens in the summer when the marina's full and everything else, if he's having parties, people are parking all the way up and down Allen Street. How are the residents gonna like that?
You're
And
not.
now, when there's a wine bar there, they're gonna be parking more up and down Allen Street. I'm just saying what's real.
I understand, and that's an
And
enforcement
whether
issue.
she thinks that she's gonna get boutique wine deliveries, Martinetti owns everybody. Everybody. They bought every wine company there is. And Martinetti delivers in big trucks.
Okay.
You know, so you'll see, people will be driving down Front Street in the summer, there'll be tractor trailers stopped. You'll have to wait to go by, and there'll be people parking up and down the streets. And our tenants are saying, what are you gonna do about our parking lot? It's full of TK O'Malley's people. You
And
know,
yeah,
so,
the sad part about it is that empty parking lot across from TK's.
yeah.
TK.
Well, it's not totally, because Lucky Finn rented it.
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
They did.
Because they wouldn't rent it.
Joy has a couple spots across.
Joyce got involved in that, and that's terrific.
Yes.
But as Steve said, the people that own that property behind that, what's his name?
Bob Morrissey.
That's a property, I even asked Tim Cardy, I said, Tim, what if the town would buy your place for expanded parking? And he didn't say no.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's,
I think at some point we need to have a sit down with the powers that be. Somebody, huh?
but I've been interested in this in the past, and every time I've said anything, it just goes away.
It isn't going to go away, all right? It isn't.
Well, that's nice. That's great.
No.
The impossible takes a little longer.
Right.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, but I have an expiration date, you know, so.
We all do. Thank you.
Anyway, you guys have a difficult job. It's impossible. You know, I wouldn't want to be up there, so.
That's why we get paid the big bucks.
Huge, that's what I heard.
Huge.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, Stephen, you're so amazing. Okay. did planning and development, Karen. Didn't we already talk about this?
I forgot to tell you three things.
Okay.
Drew's changing the name of their project. It's gonna be, Sky Sail at Driftway.
What?
That's what they're gonna be calling it.
What is it gonna be called?
Sky Sail at Driftway.
Sky Sail.
Ugh.
What did it used
That's
to
what they sent me.
What was it before?
What was the new property?
I don't know if they really had a name.
Sky Sail, wow.
The LLC's not changing.
What's the LLC?
The residents at Driftway Place.
And that's what I thought it was.
Well,
They changed it.
I'm just telling you what I've
So it's
learned.
now gonna be,
Sky Sail.
that is very weird.
All right, so then we had the roadway safety evaluation on 12/2 for the Rotary. I should be getting a draft report of that shortly. And then there'll be a very short comment period, then it goes back, and then we get a second draft, and they incorporate comments from that, and based on that report, we'll be able to hopefully assign mitigation to projects when they come in. I think the biggest concern is pedestrian and bike, pedestrian and bike down there, because the accident data shows that most accidents happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 12 and 2 or 4 and 6 in the month of May. And the latest accident data shows no fatalities.
They've mostly.
That's when the wine bar's open.
All right, and so the last thing, I sent you all the award stuff data, so you can look at the presentation. And that's all I have.
All right. Anything else from anybody?
Well, one thing, because we were kind of stopped halfway through the liaison, is that Patty and I went to design review for 7 new driftway. We're just starting with the rotary there, so they are gonna want to see some substantive changes to that building. And there's another meeting next week.
Tuesday.
Yeah, for hopefully a new iteration will come to life.
This is true.
And I have to say, just sort of after I told Karen that I'd like to see the project on Ford Place. It went a whole lot nicer than I thought it would, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I also feel like the size and scale fit the neighborhood much
Yeah.
better than
It's
what
that-
it looked like on paper.
It's so-
Which is surprising, usually it's the other way around.
Yeah, because design review was very firm on that roof line, and it came out really nice, I think.
I do have a comment.
Yes.
The gas station, the new one, it just seems very close to the road, much more than I anticipated. And that's all I've heard.
So it's the corner of the Drew thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
same
I know,
thing.
see when the
Maybe
landscape's
I-
done, I guess.
I agree with you, Rebecca.
That's the new bylaw.
That's the bylaw. That's exactly what it is.
I voted it. Never.
That's the bylaw.
Yeah, well,
Well, the alternative would be that you would have all the gas pumps and cars in front, so I think that would be great.
even if it was 5 feet back, it would look.
Well, then maybe you want to suggest, I mean, there's a range of setbacks in all these things, and typically, they're going with the minimum. Maybe you want to suggest on projects that they really carefully consider the range of setbacks.
Okay, thank you.
Another learning experience.
Yeah, it's just much closer, and the corner door is much closer than I thought it would be.
Which when that building's framed.
It goes up.
Really big.
It goes up.
Have you seen the mock-up?
Yeah, Rebecca was.
Yes, you would, okay.
It meets zoning. That's all I'm gonna, it meets zoning.
No, I know what you're
It
saying.
meets zoning.
Yep.
I guess I just didn't realize it was that close to the road.
And that was under the mixed-use zoning, not the village VCN.
Yeah.
it meets zoning.
There was something else interesting in the paper about the new law in terms of building around transportation centers. But this, we've already started doing that.
It's as a matter of right, though.
And we,
Units per acre.
and we have that
We have that.
in
As a
North,
matter of right.
yes,
Yes, we do.
in North Situate.
So we're a little ahead of the curve on that one.
We have it by right in Greenbush too, for 12 units per acre, for certain things.
Minimum of 15.
I know, and we have that district in North Situate.
When
So you're gonna go to a minimum of 15?
No, we only need one district.
No, minimum of 15 units per acre.
And you only need one district if you're an MBTA community. We have that in North Situate.
And it says 15 units per acre?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, when
I
all
thought you
that,
said 12.
when all that came to light was when the North Situate with MAPC was getting to the finish line, the rezoning. So the consultant was very mindful of the fact that we were gonna tick that box when that was promulgated, those new rules. I remember that being.
When that happens, that'll really change the character of the town.
Well,
Over the next 15,
when we
20
get
years.
sewer, it will change.
It's coming. It's coming.
So it's Christmas.
It's coming.
How do you know that?
It's coming.
Okay.
Bill, he has a contract, Bill.
Yes.
I've been down to DEP.
Oh, you have? All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Alright.
All right, what did you know, DEP?
Nothing, it's just been a while since come in.
Say nothing else
You know
is
what?
yours, everybody.
They're off,
Right?
It's actually really enjoyable to
Thanks.
come to a face-to-face meeting rather than the Zoom crap that they've had. I'm too personal to do the Zoom stuff. I hate it.
I
Hate
do
it.
too.
Just, you don't